Gateway
Wait.
Gorilla Studios. Wait, Connor, you already messed the intro of this up. Gateway Gorilla Studios coming at you from the Metropolis. And here with me this week, it's not Everest as it usually is. It's not Andrew
Whoa.
from my other show. That's so random. We
Whoa.
got Daren McClemens and Connor, the
Hello.
AKAs, Acid over here from the Pipeline Podcast. Connor, what's up? Sounds like you're eager to speak.
Hey, what's up? I'm Everest. I'm here to talk about some DC films. What up?
I killed Everest. So sorry.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're talking about
um,
some DC films, more specifically the DCEU.
Speaking of things being dark,
Are they really, though?
The Dark Extended
they were
Universe.
for a while. Or that's the joke. That's what the joke was for
Yeah.
a while.
Wasn't even Deadpool 2 making that joke? Or
Yeah.
Deadpool 1 was making that joke?
Oh
Which
my
one?
gosh, he got so old so
Yeah.
quickly. Like,
So
everyone-
dark.
Yeah.
What are you, from the DC universe?
Yeah.
and then seeing how it all ended with Aquaman 2 is so funny. Just like how things ended up here.
Most cheesy superhero film of all time.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, it was, yeah. So I just finished that the other day, which is why we are doing this, why I invited you guys, because,
Oh.
Hey.
I don't know, this franchise kind of gets dogged on a lot, and I don't,
It does, yeah. It gets.
I understand it to an extent, but not to the degree that it does. I don't
Mm.
understand why, like, some of these movies are borderline hated.
Yeah.
It's just messy. Like,
Hey-
a lot of the movies are good, but, like, the overall universe is just messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, because of all the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I think it's like, you know, if you like this universe or if you dislike, or if you're like me where I like some and dislike others, like, I think it's arguably the most messy, like, movie film universe of all time. Like, just looking at everything that happened, everything that it went through, this character coming back, oh, he's gone again, oh, he's back, but nope, he's fired now. Like, there's so many different, like, things that it went through over the years.
Damn, I wonder what character you could be talking about.
I don't know.
Because it
must
sounds
be,
like a few of them.
You're talking about Blue
really
Beetle?
good. Oh, yeah, him. It's Peacemaker.
Oh, yeah. The toy.
Yeah, The Rock wanted to make Black Adam like the biggest name ever for some reason.
Mm.
The hierarchy of the DC universe is about to change.
It did. It truly
It did change. In fairness to him, it did change.
He was talking with James
It
Gunn.
100% did. He wasn't wrong. That's the irony of it all, really.
And he kind of caused it, which is kind of the weird thing. Or I guess that was kind of like the breaking point, right? Was that film? And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know.
And looking back, that film didn't even do that bad, like compared to movies this year.
It did better than Flash, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Did
It's the
Aquaman 2
highest-
do better than Flash?
Oh yeah.
Aquaman 2 did better than like all of them. Aquaman 2 is like the highest grossing since
Yeah, Aquaman
1.
2, yeah, it did. Did it do
It,
better
like,
than Black Adam?
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
No, wait,
Wait,
didn't? I thought
I-
Aquaman 1
Black
was
Adam
like,
was
right behind
500 million, I
Aquaman 2
think.
is behind Aquaman 1.
Profit-wise, it might have, but I don't think just like straight box office-wise it did.
I mean, it's
yeah,
currently
well.
still in the like theater and stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's still, like,
I guess
going.
it could. Yeah, I think Black Adam's 500 and the Aquaman's currently at like your 400. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
it's coming up there.
For some reason I thought I saw someone say it was like right behind Aquaman 1 in terms of like the next DC movie on the list.
They both probably made their money back, so they weren't really wins, but they weren't bombs either. So
Yeah.
Oh wait, Black Adam finished at like 400 million and Aquaman 2 is at 420.
Okay, then yeah, it is. Which I
Nice.
think proves that Jason is not going anywhere. Like I think they're
Yeah,
keeping
yeah,
him
like, he's
around.
up
I think he's Lobo for sure. Like if there was any doubt,
Lobo, oh,
if there
I
was
want to
any-
see Lobo.
which like we will get there. But in Aquaman 2, he just played Lobo. Like me and Connor had talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like it just felt like he was trying to do that early.
Yeah.
Oh no, it just kind of felt like he was Jason Momoa to me. I didn't really put the Lobo thing
Yeah,
together.
100%. Yeah.
Well, like Guinness promotion in Aquaman 2 that was everywhere.
Yeah.
Give me
Was
like, the
Aquaman
exact-
2 promoting to not have children?
Yes, it was. That's exactly what it was about.
Hey man, that kid got taken at one point. Didn't really feel like it was ever in danger, but
Mm. I mean, there was a whole group of people that wanted that baby murdered. Like people
Yeah.
were,
people
were begging
were
for it.
going
It would've been funny.
crazy.
yeah, like for like Twitter for like a whole month was like hashtag kill that baby. Like get him out of here. Like we don't want him.
Why
I
is
mean,
all
there's
stuff-
presidents
what
in the
was I saying?
comics.
Aquaman
Black
1
Panther's
was
just that much of a dick.
Yeah. Which would be so funny, just like looking at the tone of that film and what they were kind of going for it to say, like, oh yeah, you wanted to murder a newborn baby. Like,
It's just comic book fun, just comic book cheesiness, right?
death of a child. I'd love to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah,
Like, you wanna
Aquaman
make
2 was
Black Manta
a
the scariest.
Augment 2 is the end of this universe, but this universe, it consisted of 16 films that we're going to be talking about.
16 excellent films.
I guess we should just jump into it from 16 going into number 1. So,
Alrighty.
yeah, Connor, do you want to go first?
Sure.
What's your number
Justice League.
16?
2017 Justice League.
Okay, makes sense.
I mean, I don't hate any film from it in the universe. I think all of them have at least something going on in them that make them watchable. Like, I would prefer to watch the worst of the DCEU than I would the worst of the MCU. Like, I think there's better stuff going on. But I mean, I didn't even hate the OG Justice League until I saw the Snyder Cut. Then I was like, okay, the OG Justice League definitely is not anywhere near what the Snyder Cut was. I don't know. I get what they were going for though. With it, it's like a cheesy superhero film. It's like the Superman stuff it feels like kind of the 1970s, 1980s Superman stuff. So I kind of appreciate it for that. But it's definitely it's an ugly film in terms of like how it just looks in general.
Bro, it is so ugly.
It's really like the red just tint on everything.
I don't think I noticed in the theater how ugly it was, and I don't know how.
Yeah.
Because I tried rewatching it at home, and I was like, oh my, dude, it's so ugly.
Everything looks so saturated and like colored in, kind of.
Yeah, like $300 million budget for this. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just that whole side plot about the family living in the place where the party were taking over. Like,
I forgot.
Why do we
about
care?
That.
Why do we want to watch that?
And it kind of sucks because I think it works in theory. Like, I like the idea that they were going for it to just like save one person. You just have to save one. Like, that in concept is sick, but like the like way they did it was like, I don't care.
It's like, you could not make me not want to watch this last
round. It's like, there's Aquaman literally right over there. Show him. Like,
yeah, genuinely. Which is it was just under 2 hours, wasn't it? It was the first time we saw these characters ever together in live action, and it was just under 2 hours. Like, it was so... They were spending their time on things that they shouldn't have been spending their time on, and then not enough time on things we should have been seeing. Like, we should have seen so much more of the Justice League hanging out in that version of the film than anything else we were seeing.
Yeah,
it's just a pretty messy movie because of all the behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, like, I don't even know what Zack Snyder's name is on this movie, because after seeing the Snyder Cut, it does not seem like he like shot. Like, what's the percentage you have to shoot for your name to be credited on the movie?
No, it genuinely, like, it feels like it's just not in any way what he wanted to make.
No, not at all. Anyway, Daren, what's your number 16?
Also Justice League. Yeah, no,
okay.
I don't love this movie. I think, and again, totally. We have. I should say up front, me and Connor's list are going to be very different, because I think things he loves, I hate, and things I hate, I love. You know, but like, yeah, I think we do agree on this one, and I think it is just kind of bottom of the barrel superhero movie. We watch a lot of these like superhero films, and I still think it's one of the worst. Some is their fault, some is obviously not. There's a lot of stuff that happened, you know, behind the scenes of the film that just can't be helped. And the only real joy or like entertainment that get out of this movie is just a simple fact that it is a live action Justice League film that we had got, you know, some small stuff, you know, in that form, but like, this was really the first time we were getting something of this scale. And there are tiny moments of things in here that I can be like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, I love the final like scene of the film where it's Flash and Superman racing. Like, that's cool. I want more of that. Give me more of that. And obviously, like, it's a very rushed film. They were trying to they were trying to, you know, beat up to like Marvel, and they were doing their Age of Ultron, I think that same year, right? Or, you know, around the same time. And it's very clear. And I think when you have, not saying team films can't work when you're introducing these characters for the first time. We saw Guardians just a couple years prior. They can do it. But I think when you have so many large characters, these are all massive characters with such deep lores, like Aquaman and Flash and Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman have so much lore and character to them. And when you're trying to cram all these things and a villain and all this backstory in 2 hours, it just doesn't work. And, you know, put that on top of all the behind the scene things that they had to deal with. For me, it is bottom of the tier DCEU.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the 2 credit scenes I think are the best parts of the film. Like the Flash and Superman race, and then the end credits with the Legion of Doom.
And that would have been so hyped. Like, I was so excited to see what that was kind of building onto, and that's one of those many things that just didn't get paid off.
Yeah. I mean, that was in the Snyder version as well, I think. The Legion of Doom stuff, wasn't it? It's like one of the last scenes.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in, like, outside of the final race, I don't think there's anything else in the like Zack Snyder's thing that was like, I wish they would have kept that other thing in. Like I like
Yeah.
everything else. Like there's nothing in this movie that the other doesn't have that I missed. So
No, exactly. Like there's no new scene in the 2017 version that I would want to see in the Snyder
Sure.
version.
Look, I agree with all that, but my 16 is Suicide Squad 2016.
That's my number one.
I had a heart attack for a second. I was like, wait, what? The other
Oh,
one. Okay. I was
I
like,
don't
wait.
I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would like this movie more if you just cut out Jared Leto's Joker. I'm not gonna lie to you. I
Oh, really?
hate his Joker so much. And it makes no sense. Like his involvement in the plot makes literally no sense whatsoever. As the Joker, he makes no sense.
Yeah.
Margot Robbie, Will Smith, they aren't that bad. Even like Diablo, I don't hate his character. Killer Croc kind of feels like a nothing character in this movie, if I'm being honest. Rick Flag, he's pretty whatever. I like him a lot more in the other Suicide Squad movie that I'll talk about later. But yeah, it's not a movie I like ever have the urge to rewatch, and it's like the Jared Leto's Joker is like the only Joker I've seen in anything that I actually just don't like, and that kind of just hurts my heart a little bit. The glimpses to like
Right.
Batman and Flash, like in the movie, are pretty cool though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of that.
I also agree with a lot of that.
Yeah,
I think it's like the characters in the 2016 version, like that are in the 2021 version, they're just better in the
They're done
2021 version.
better. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess I can go ahead and do my 15 since you guys already talked about the movie. It's Justice League for all the same reasons. Dude, also after they bring Superman back in that movie, and the confrontation between Batman and Superman is so dumb.
Yeah.
The will you bleed thing all over again.
I don't not like you. What the hell up, Batman?
Oh yeah, it's just played off so terribly in that movie.
Uh,
I had
what?
accepted the movie before like Zack Snyder's Justice League, or accepted it enough. I still didn't love
Yeah.
it after initial
Yeah.
viewing. Like initial viewing, I was like, I like it. I like it. Then I couldn't get past how ugly it was the next time I
Yeah.
watched
Such
it.
an ugly film. There's no reason for it to look like that. Like the bits where Bruce meets Arthur, like in that place like way up north that they go to, and then like Arthur's standing in the water, and the CGI behind him just looks horrible.
Yeah. So to
And-
get back on track, I guess Connor, you can go ahead and what's your 15?
Yeah, I was gonna say my 15 is Suicide Squad 2016.
No, there we go.
But I used to hate this film, like genuinely, like absolutely hate it.
I don't know what was going on with me in 2016, but when I saw this movie in the theater, I also enjoyed it. I don't know why, but then
Now, see, I was the opposite. I came out of it like hating it, like so annoyed. I was like, because I loved the first two films in the franchise, so like coming out of Suicide Squad, I was like, that was terrible. What the hell was that? But like it grew. I rewatched it. I think every time a new DCU film was coming out, up until I think maybe Wonder Woman 1984, I rewatched every DCU film right before it. So I must have seen Suicide Squad like 5 times before Wonder Woman 84, and it grew on me a little bit more every time. Like I think there's enough fun elements in it, like the Batman stuff, and it's pretty fun. The Flash scene with Captain Boomerang is pretty fun. Captain Boomerang is pretty cool. The Harley Quinn and Deadshot stuff is cool. Waller's good. I don't hate Jared Leto's Joker, but it's definitely like it didn't make or break the film for me. Like if you removed him, I wouldn't care. If you had more of him, well, I mean, if you had more of him, I probably would care. But
if you had more of him, I would. I don't know what I would do, man.
because I got the extended cut version, which has like 15 minutes of extra footage, and it has, I think, 3 or 4 more scenes of Jared Leto's Joker, and it's just like him on a highway, just being weird.
Dude, I hated
like,
what we got of Jared Leto's Joker in the Snyder cut. It's like, bro,
people
why
want
did you
more
have
of
to
it.
bring
No,
this
that was
guy
weird.
back?
That was weird. That's my least favorite scene in the entire franchise.
Weird.
There's
Why is this
still,
Joker
like-
so weird?
There's still actively people who are begging to get more of that movie, and I will forever not understand. Like I'm fully
the
open
Snyder
for,
cut?
like no, of the like air cut. Like
Oh yeah, people
still
want the air.
Yeah, people really want
I
it.
don't get it, right? Because he's released 2 different versions of the films, and both times he said it's the AR version, and then when people don't like it, he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, the real AR version's coming later on." Like what? What version is it then?
I couldn't care.
Wait, there's
I could
already
not
2
care.
versions?
Yeah, there's the extended cut, and there's like the Blu-ray extended cut, which is a different version of it. And both
No,
times
there's
he's been
3
like, "This is the
versions of this
definitive version."
movie.
Oh
There's
yeah,
the
then, yeah,
theatrical
there's the-
version,
yeah.
then 2 extended versions? What?
Yeah,
I didn't
But each
even know
time he
that.
says it's the version, like it's the definitive version, and then he backtracks and says, "Oh no, there's loads more footage out there." Like, then really, I don't know. I don't get it. The DCU is so
That's how
messy.
every movie works, though. Do you know how much footage is like left on the cutting room floor
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Always
every
like
movie?
hours and hours
Of
of extra
course, there's
footage.
more footage.
I think
That
he just
doesn't mean
wanted
it's
that
good.
movie, but he doesn't want to like take responsibility for that.
No,
Like, he's
absolutely.
like
That's exactly it. Like, he doesn't want to like admit that the film is just bad, and that no extra cuts with the alternate takes of Jared Leto's
Yeah.
Joker is gonna fix it. But yeah,
Wow.
it's a messy film. I think it's just you can definitely tell that they got the music video editors to edit it, because it does have that feeling of like it's a montage film.
The
Yeah,
It's like
soundtrack
it
in
just
this
jumps
movie like
between beats.
makes no sense.
It doesn't. It's like, oh, quick, put in Bohemian Rhapsody because it sounds like Guardians of the Galaxy music. Like, what?
Let's put on Without Me because it's Eminem. Like, okay, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't fit any of these characters.
yeah.
It's like, at least with the music in Guardians of the Galaxy, it had meaning for Star-Lord. There's no like songs that have meaning in Suicide Squad. They're just in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I may as well just jump in and say that's also my 15th film here.
We all hate it.
We are kind of on track currently, Connor. But no,
we're all on track here. Same bottom
I
two
know.
for all of us.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is a film where I think, unlike your Justice League, I can find some enjoyment out of this one. Like, I can pick apart some things and be like, you know what, I can respect that. I can like that. I think Margot and Will are actually really good as those characters. Like, if nothing else came from this movie, we got Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, which I think is one of the greatest comic book castings of all time. She's put her name on that character, and Will Smith I think gets a lot of hate, but I would have been fine if he got to keep playing that character, because I did think he did a really good job at the part. I actually think the first like 15 minutes or so of the movie, when they're going through all the different like characters in the movie, and we have all your like Batfleck stuff, he came in, I feel like that's some of the closest like Ben Affleck Batman, where he got to just kind of to be Batman and not part of this like event type thing, where it's like, oh cool, he's just Batman here. I thought all that was fun. And then you got the rest of the movie, which I think just doesn't work as well for me. It is kind of a mess. You can tell that they were just like a lot of the DC films of this era, just on the cutting board. There's just so much that just didn't work. So much things where they're trying to, go with like your Guardians and, like what they were doing. And I just don't like it very much, but I like it slightly better than my 16. So
I like how none of us even mentioned like the main villains of the movie, Enchantress, Incubus, because they're
couldn't
not
tell
good.
you-
They're very
I
forgettable.
couldn't tell you a single thing about them.
Yeah, exactly.
tell you a
They have
single
no
thing.
depth. It's like what Enchantress, the chick that Enchantress takes over, like she has a relationship with Rick
Yeah,
Flag
like
in the
June
beginning
Moon or
or
something.
whatever. Yeah, June
Couldn't tell ya.
Moon like has this relationship with Rick Flag, right?
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
Yeah, and then she
Yeah.
like digs into the ground, and then she finds like the Enchantress stone, and it like infects her, and then it takes over her. Then her brother Incubus gets brought out, and he like blows up the train in Midway City, and then they have to go in and like fix everything. It's so stupid. So stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Joker's involved in like a helicopter crash.
Yeah.
Just to
He's,
come
like,
back in the end.
Harley Quinn has a phone for some reason on that like super secret like
Yeah.
mission where she was just released from prison, so she has a phone where Joker's texting her on it and is like, "Get ready
Gonna
for
get you,
a
babe."
helicopter." So stupid. Well, like Darren, to your point about like the
It felt like
Batman
they were
stuff
trying to
being
be serious, but also like it felt like they were trying to go in the route of like a '60s like
Yeah.
DC comic. And I was like, you gotta pick a direction here, movie.
I feel like that was exactly it. Like they wanted it to feel like just this DC sort of comic throwback sort of thing, but it just didn't work at all. But I definitely feel like it feels like the most connected, I guess, maybe of the DC movies, because like
Sure.
to their credit,
yeah.
they had Batman, they had Flash, they were following up Superman's
Which was
death.
cool.
They had a lot
They
of
had the credit
mentions
scene
to
with Aquaman.
Superman. This was before Justice League, or before.
It was,
this was
yeah.
after
It was a year before
BVS.
Justice
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, it was like
But yeah,
BVS
they
was
were
March,
like, what
most
if we
August.
get a threat as powerful as Superman? Like, how are we gonna take that down? And that's how we get to the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And you had David Harbour as that random like senator guy.
Oh yeah, David Harbour. I love that guy.
And like also I do think it's like an incredibly interesting choice to have it after like a Death of Superman film type thing, where it's like our most powerful hero is dead. Now what do we do? Oh, we have these villains that are still around. Why don't we get them? Like that concept is sick as hell. I actually
It is, yeah,
really
it's
like
cool.
that.
Like it works in the
just-
universe.
It does, and I just wish it happened a little bit later. Like I think that's my biggest problem with like the DCEU. And you, Connor, you can argue this later on. I will accept
No,
that.
I mean, I
But
agree with you that like they did
everything
way
should have
too much too
happened
soon.
at least like 5 films later. Like all of this should have been at least a bit, like at least chapter 2.
Yeah,
there should have been
phases.
a lot more solo movies before we got to Suicide Squad, Justice League,
100%. Yeah.
and even BVS. I'd say, but like we should have had a Batman solo movie, and probably Man of Steel 2 before BVS. But I know someone here probably disagrees.
Aaron.
What?
Well, I guess we'll find out. Oh, okay.
No, it's like it feels like. I mean, I get it. It was like Zack Snyder's 5-movie plan. At this point, he was like doing his own sort of mini universe, and then they were going to reset it and have an actual DC universe afterwards. But they shouldn't have been doing that. Like, even though I like his stuff, this should have been just a normal DC universe.
Or I mean, seeing how things turned out, they should have just stuck with it, and we
no,
be
exactly
in the same spot.
We should have been course correcting so much. So,
because I'm still interested, like, to see what that would have been, because I'm curious.
Yeah, same.
But we'll probably never get it. So, oh well.
Like, sure, it wasn't working with people, but if you stuck with it, it would give a chance for people to be like, okay, let me see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into this. I'm not a huge fan of like the Snyder, like a lot of the Snyder stuff I got, but I would have at least liked them to finish it, like finish the journey, and then it's there, and then we can move on it. But instead, we've had these last 5 years of just like, I don't know what we're doing, man. We don't got a Superman, we don't got a Batman, Wonder Woman. People hate her. Like, it's just such a weird limbo of like.
Shazam's the face of the universe now, I guess.
Yeah, Harley Quinn has had like the most movies, I think, which is absurd.
Yeah, it is insane.
He has? Holy shit!
She had 3 films. Yeah, craziness.
I feel like it's just because this was right around the time of like Civil War was 2016, then you had Infinity War being 2018. I feel like they were just seeing how good Marvel had it, and were constantly changing everything, trying to catch up to Marvel. But it was just making everything worse for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not how you tell a story. You don't rush to it. You don't rush to the ending. Come on. Like, I was shocked that they did Death of Superman. Like, I shouldn't have been that shocked. We'll get into it later.
Just because if this universe did continue, it ruined them being able to do Death of Superman as like a big like moment later on.
That should be an event. Yeah.
All right. So we all did 16-15. Connor, what's your 14?
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Okay.
I mean, I also don't hate this one though. I think it's just kind of mid.
Yeah.
Like it's
from these on, I don't like really hate any of them.
Yeah.
They're, like mid or good or even great in my eyes. The last two are the only ones I don't really like. I wouldn't say I even hate them, but I'm not really a fan.
I feel like it's just these bottom ones are just more so disappointments than like oh, I hate this. Like, I got some stuff out of them, but it's like they could have been so much better. But with Aquaman 2, it just annoyed me because so many of the cast and crew are the exact same as the first film, but the first film feels so much better made and so much better put together, in my opinion, than this one did. Like, you had James Wan, you had the same screenwriter, you had the same composer, you had most of the same cast. Like, pretty much Willem Dafoe is like the only cast member who's not in both of them, right? Like, and out of the main cast.
Yeah.
And like, that's almost everything is the exact same, but somehow this one feels like more of a you can tell that they were finding out around making this that the DCEU wasn't going to last long, and this is probably their last film, so they were just deflated and they just didn't want to put effort into this because it feels like they just didn't care enough at all to really make this one or like to make it good, because they were like, what's the point of making it good? We could make this the greatest film of all time and it wouldn't matter because people are probably not going to see it. It's not going to get marketing. Like, there's no guarantee this film won't be written off as a tax write-off before it even comes out. So why should we bother with it?
Yeah.
But it's like, it still had some stuff in it, like some good stuff. Like the Orm and Arthur stuff was pretty fun. The Black Manta stuff as a villain was pretty cool. I didn't really like any of the fight scenes. I thought the fight scenes in the first one were really cool, but I didn't really like any of them here. It just it felt like the film was constantly changed in production, and I don't know.
Probably was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% think okay, so I can't choose between my 13 and my 14. I feel like either of these films can go either way. But I have Wonder Woman 1984, which feels very low for it because when I think about it, I don't really think about it as the worst of the worst when it comes to like the DCEU. But man, I did not like this movie. And like at this time, at this what this was what 2020, right? I feel like this was
Yeah,
a
late
time
2020.
where it's like superhero movies own the world. They were my favorite thing ever. Like a superhero, like it was very rare for a superhero movie to come out, and I was like, I don't like this. Like this wasn't a thing for me yet, and it really just drained everything. And again, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Some was the actual quality of the film. Some was this was COVID. This was dropping during COVID. This was one of the only movies we got. One of the big blocks, like the first blockbuster movie that we got after like months and months of nothing. It came out around Christmas. My hype level was so unbelievably high that we were getting new content, new superhero content to talk about again. I was so excited. And I just really did not vibe with what the film was going with. I think how they treated certain characters. It felt, and it also just felt like, and this isn't always a bad thing. There's a lot of movies that do this that I like, but it did kind of feel like filler, in like a weird way, that they were just kind of filling the gaps until another DC movie would come out, where it's like, I don't know what we're doing here. So we'll just kind of have this off adventure where she's doing her own thing. Maxwell Lord is fun. I mean, you have Pedro Pascal, but I don't feel like they do a lot with him. I love Cheetah as a villain. I feel like they don't really do much there as well. And I think just everything with Diana in this movie, and I feel like we kind of like backtrack her character a bit. Like Chris Pine being back, I love him as an actor. I think bringing Steve Trevor back was a mistake for this movie, because it kind of feels like we didn't, like there wasn't really a point. Like we bring him back to teach her a lesson, but was it a lesson that needed to be learned for her? And I felt like we kind of brought her back just to kill him again, or brought him back just to kill him again. I don't know. It's just a lot that didn't automatically work with me. But I will say, I think this movie often gets thrown in like the worst comic book movie of all time place. And I don't agree with that. I think there's much, much, much worse than this movie. You know, me saying there's two below this film. So, like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but I don't think it's like the worst ever made or anything like that.
I didn't realize it was
I'm
that hated by people. Holy
on Twitter.
shit.
It is, yeah.
Oh,
People
yeah.
on Twitter
Oh my
hate this film.
God, why?
I see people saying it's like, you know,
I understand why people wouldn't like it,
Catwoman and
but
stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
really?
I haven't seen Catwoman. But
I've seen people say Wonder Woman 1984 is the reason why the DCEU started to die.
Yeah, which I mean,
according to Daren, maybe.
He does hate it. I mean, honestly, though, like what you're saying about like it feeling like filler, I felt like pretty much every DCEU film after Aquaman felt like filler. I felt like it constantly felt like it was just a film to fill in the gaps without them really trying to push along the narrative too much of the overall universe.
Sure.
Don't feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like that always needs to be the focus of a movie, though.
No, I don't
100%
either.
agree. Yeah.
But I think they should have tried more to make some of the films feel like they were more involved in what was happening.
Yeah. But like even the film, like I like while the film was going on, I feel like like there's some portions of it where we didn't feel like we were doing anything. Like it kind of felt like the plot kind of like stood still for a moment.
Yeah. And like they kept pausing to do like random Pedro Pascal shenanigans or random like Steve and Diana looking around 1980s places.
Yeah. And also, like, to be fair to this, like, I think you guys have just like rewatched the movie. I have not seen it since it came out, so maybe I'd watch it now and be like, wait, this is actually kind of fire. Like, I don't know. Like, I am purely going off of my feelings back in 2020, where I very strongly disliked it. So again, maybe, and you know, y'all can go back on this exact channel. Me, Brayden, and Everest talked about this like 3-4 years ago.
Oh,
like,
yes.
I think out of the three of us, I was the one that was like, I don't really like this, guys. I don't really think this was that good. So
you're like, look, I respect your opinions, but this film is terrible, and you should feel bad for liking it.
That's basically what it was like.
Yeah.
He opened it up with like, you know, some of it was fun, but look, guys, it wasn't that good.
Guys, can you stop praising the film? It's bad, right?
And you know what? Like I do love, because Connor, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it, because like I love that you guys liked it. Like I really genuinely.
I absolutely loved it when it first came out. But I think I was also starved for content. Like I'd been like it was the first film to really come out in cinemas in months because of COVID. So I was like, a new DC film is one of the first films to come out. I'm hyped to go see it.
And I was kind of shocked. Like I was very shocked to hear that from you, because like I'm very used to your, which is great that you did love it. Like I'm not saying that whatsoever, but I'm used to your idea of what makes a good movie a lot higher than mine is at times. So I was like, oh, he liked this movie and I hated it. Like, what was wrong with me that I disliked this movie? And, you know, I don't believe that now, but like back in 2020, that was kind of like a mindset that I was having. Like, what? Like what is it about this movie I don't like?
You DM'd me afterwards and were like, this is the worst film of all time, and I've lost
Damn!
all respect for you for liking this
I
film.
don't think no. Hold on.
Yeah, you were like, I just don't understand you could do this, and then he blocked me. Took a
He
year
blocked
for you to
you.
unblock me.
He
This is
blocked
our
you for
first
a
time
year.
talking in 4 years. We have not talked in 4 years. This is our
Yeah,
first
this is the first time. Yeah, that's not me
Damn.
on the pipeline every week.
No, it's his twin
that's
brother.
not you.
That's not me.
Well, my number 14 is not Black Adam because The Rock doesn't really feel like Black Adam.
Oh, okay. I was
interesting.
like, hold up, what joke is this? Where's he going with this?
It's paper, not
Look, Hawkman and Dr. Fate are the best characters in this movie. Do I need to say
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
And it set up
You do
something
need to
we're
say more.
obviously never going to get Superman Black Adam. I don't understand the not connecting him with Shazam. No mention of Shazam whatsoever. Their powers are literally from the same freaking wizard. I don't know. That kind of bugged me.
Will I just go with my 13 then because it is Black Adam?
Yeah, we can just flow into it.
Okay.
We can have a nice conversation about Black
Wow.
Adam.
Okay, sweet. Well, I mean, we wanted to. This is just the Black Adam podcast.
Then I'll take a break for a minute then, because mine's a bit
Oh,
higher.
whoa.
Interesting.
I'll take a pause.
He
Well,
loved
me-
this film. This is his Wonder
Me and
Woman.
Connor
1984.
sort of stay in the same ballpark here.
Yeah.
We're actually really similar so far.
Oh yeah,
But,
ours are. I think all of ours are about to change in a minute. I think
Yeah.
we're about to divert.
I feel like once we
Yeah.
get into top 10, things might get a little
Top
crazy.
10,
Yeah.
it's going to be, like, in my opinion, right. You guys are wrong, pretty much. For the wait, Chuck.
We're gonna make
No,
Connor hate us, Darren.
Black Adam was like, I was really excited for it because of the praise that it wasn't getting like overpraised like in the
I
reviews.
didn't know
leading
it
up
was
to it.
getting praise.
But I just
wasn't
remember
aware.
like the hype for it because the way The Rock was like talking about it, like this is it, this is changing DC. We're getting a Justice Society in it, with Hawkman and Doctor Fate, like loads of these characters that we hadn't really properly seen in live action outside of TV shows at all. And I got spoiled for the Superman stuff before going to see it, but I was so excited to see it because I was like, Henry Cavill's back as Superman. This is crazy. Like, I felt like this was a new direction for DC going forward. It felt like even if the film might not be good, they've got a plan for once and for the first time in 5 years. And
that was like the only connection to Shazam too, was with I guess it had two post-credit scene. One was the Superman one, and then they had the Justice Society confronting Shazam. Or was that a Shazam 2 post-credit scene?
Yeah. But it felt like between Shazam 2 and Black Adam, they were like gearing stuff in a new direction. It felt like they were kind of just like they definitely should have crossed over more with Shazam in the film. Like, I don't know. I think the fact that The Rock was like, no, I'm not fighting Shazam, I'm fighting Superman. Like, Black Adam fights Superman, he doesn't fight Shazam. It's so stupid. There should have been way more collabs with them.
Like, you should beat Shazam before you face Superman, guy.
No, you should. Exactly. Like, it should be a lead up to that. But like, I remember when we were in the cinema watching the film, and it was during a lot of like the narration by that kid who was for so much of the first half of the film, where he was just like talking over everything, and it was so weird and cringy. I remember like I looked over at my friend at one point, and we were just kind of like, yeah, this isn't good. Like, this isn't a good film right now. And I don't know, I didn't hate it, but it was a lot cringier
I
than
think
I wanted it to be.
if Hawkman and Dr. Fate weren't in that movie, I'd probably think it would be a bad movie, honestly.
I think it'd be my least favorite DCU film without. Yeah, like without the Justice Society, yeah, it probably like.
Dude, I
would be
wanted a
bottom.
Hawkman movie after that. I was like, bro, give me a
Yeah. They
were going
Hawkman
to.
movie.
I
He was
thought
so
great
good.
as Hawkman.
He was so
It was
good. He
enough-
was the best part of the movie.
That's I think the most sad part of like about this like DCEU ending is all the projects that were going to happen that didn't. Like, they announced it right after the film came out. Like, they're using it in a movie, and it's like, yo, that sounds sick. And now I want to play your like Hal Jordan, which I was like, actually, I wouldn't hate that, but like, he was really good as your Hawkman. Like, he was sick.
I mean, this was such a weird era because like we had that Hawkman announced, and then they also Henry Cavill doing that Instagram video like a week later, being like, "Oh, I'm back to Superman, and we're
We
getting
were
another
so
movie."
back.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It was all
and then the new regime came in.
They were like, right, the new regime.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's like a whole like takeover of a country or something.
It's like
Which, like-
Injustice.
Literally.
which I'm so happy we are, but like, that was the first time as a DCEU fan where I was like, you know what? I see a hope. Like, I see a future where we can maybe turn this around. And, obviously, like, I think we are going the best direction. Like, I think starting fresh and starting clean is the best thing that DC can do right now. But like, I think Henry Cavill coming back in and making that announcement and then taking that away was such a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, no,
My weird thing is
I'm
we're
really
not
hyped
getting
for
into that.
Legacy, and
Like I'm hyped for
I
Legacy,
guess we'll
but
get
like
more
it's
into
not a
that
fresh
later.
start.
No,
'Cause
it's
we
not
got more
completely
guns to
fresh.
fill.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get more
We
into
got
that
like
later.
Suicide
Trust
Squad and
me.
Peacemaker, and it's like
Yeah,
it's so messy.
awesome.
it is still messy.
Yeah, but it's messy. For like a general audience, they're gonna have no fucking idea
Yeah.
what's going on.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the like casual viewers know more than some people may think. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like you
sure.
just have to like check on a few things, like just see a few things on your phone or some shit, and like
Yeah.
you'll be
Yeah.
caught up. I think a
Sorry.
lot of the movies this past year didn't do that great because a lot of people knew that the reboot's coming. Like I think
Oh
a
yeah, I
lot of
think
people are aware
announcing all
that this
this
is coming.
before like Shazam and Aquaman were coming out was so stupid.
Yeah. I think, I've talked about that.
I'm hoping it all makes Legacy bigger though, because people are aware that this is happening.
Yeah.
I think having the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker cast, I think most modern people would get that, like, oh, he directed those films and like TV. Okay, he bring it over to people. I think people get that. I think the only place that people may get mixed up is Waller, and if they bring back Harley. Like, I think if like Margot Robbie, I know he worked with them, but I think she does have to stay out because that will be confusing for people. I really do think so. Like, she's the
Well,
one.
Margot doesn't need Harley, so I feel
No,
like
she
that's
doesn't.
fine.
But
No,
like,
yeah,
that's
she's doing
also
fine.
but like that's
Dude,
also
she's one of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's also the thing though, is like from like a CEO and as a company, where it's like she's the head, like she's the top of the world. We want her back. Like, I would imagine after Barbie, they're like, yeah, we're keeping her now. She's the biggest name currently. So I don't know.
I mean, I could see her being like a superhero, like one of the faces of the Justice League or something.
I was about to say you
Wonder
don't.
Woman,
They're
let's go.
keep if they're keeping some actors, they can keep her, just not as Harley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
But I mean, I still think Peacemaker's a weird one because like one of the final scenes of season 1 of Peacemaker is like the whole Justice League. Like you have Jason Momoa and Ezra
that's
there
what
as
I
Aquaman
find
and
weird
Flash.
about it.
And it's like, so you're telling people that if they want to watch the DCU, they have to see Peacemaker season 2. So they have to go back and watch season 1, which has the Justice League from the old stuff in there. So it's like it's awkward.
Is he saying you have to watch the shows though? He's saying everything's not going to be like that interconnected, right? Like
I think
not
it's like
that dependent.
if you want to watch
upon one
Peacemaker
another?
season 2, you probably will need to see season 1. I would say.
Which is
Yeah,
why
that makes sense.
Which is why I think they might go the like multiverse route of it, of like he somehow or like he fell through a portal and now he's in this new world or something.
But it's
Yeah.
like if they're
I feel like-
making the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker like coherent through to the DCU, like the themes and like stuff they set up, like plot things they set up in those two things are extremely similar. So like
Yeah.
having those two as one
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Black Adam my 14, it's Connor's 13.
Yep. That's it.
I think it's a pretty forgettable movie. That's
Yeah.
what it comes
It is
down
pretty
to for me.
forgettable. Yeah. It doesn't leave a whole lot of an impact.
Yeah. So Darren, what's your 13?
My 13. I have Aquaman and the Last Kingdom.
I knew what was coming.
This is a weird movie because the previous three I talked about, I would say are bad films. Those are like straight up, I think, just bad movies. And we're starting to get to the category where
You think Wonder Woman 1984 is that bad?
I would say it's a bad.
I think it's as bad as Suicide Squad and Justice League.
I think it's the same area, but it's not as bad.
Okay, fair enough. I respect it.
Aquaman 2 though, I feel very weird about this movie because I love the first one. That's one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I feel like it's the most like comic booky film. It's a really just fun popcorn flick. And I've talked a lot about this movie over the last year over on like my podcast and kind of prepping for it and what's going to come out. And that trailer came out, the first trailer, and I'll be honest, I felt nothing for that trailer. When I went to go see the movie, it took me like 2.5 weeks, or like 3 weeks to see the movie. I felt nothing, and I came out of the movie and I felt nothing, just nothing whatsoever. And that was the first time. That's been the first time in a while where I didn't find much enjoyment out of a comic book film, and that made me very sad because I love the cast. I love just like the world of Aquaman. I think Jason is such a fun Aquaman. I think he's played such a fun version of that character. But a lot of it just did not work for me, and it simply just didn't feel like a full film. Like I feel like you could obviously they have cut up this film in so many different ways and different aspects, and You could tell, like, we had two different Batmans at one point, and neither of them made the actual film. Like, what the heck was that supposed to be? Where was that supposed to go? And ultimately, I think the biggest disservice of this movie for me is I think they kind of ruined the Aquaman character in the DCEU. I feel like by the end of the movie, they have me completely rooting for Orm. I was like, this man is not fit to be king. Give Orm the keys to the kingdom, because he clearly doesn't want to be there. He wants to be with his kid and his wife. And they set up this story arc for him to go on, where he starts off the movie not wanting to be king, and I assume by the end he's supposed to want to be there or find a reason to be passionate about being king again. And we never have that moment, and we end the film with him being like, "Oh, you earned your place as king, brother. Good job." And it was like, when did this happen? You did nothing throughout this film to show that you should still be king or you want to be there. And it feels like it was cut in so many different ways, so many different avenues. I think Black Manta was great, but like, I feel like they should have just made him the villain. Like, they do this thing halfway through where they introduce this great god, the past of the sea, whatever. And I felt that like significantly less interesting than actually Black Manta himself. I don't know. I just didn't get a lot out of this. But again, I wouldn't call this like bad. Like, I don't think it's straight up bad. I just think it's just nothing. It's just like 2 hours of nothing, in my opinion.
Oh.
I ranted a bit there, and I'm so sorry.
No, I agree with all of it. Especially the whole Aquaman shouldn't be king argument. Like, he shouldn't have been. That was
Orm's just a better character than Arthur. I'm sorry.
He is, yeah.
At this point, yeah, I 100% agree. And again, he was great. I loved him in this movie. And I will say, I think when it's a movie about brothers, I actually think it's solid. When it's just them two banting back and forth, having fun, I like it. I think
that's what I think it's supposed to be, though, which is maybe why I have it a little higher than you guys.
Sure. No, that's completely fair.
I'm pretty sure James Wan has said that since the beginning. Like, he wanted the first Aquaman to be like a romance movie between Aquaman and Mera, and the second was a bromance.
And again, I would be fine with that. Like, and again, I think the movie James Wan made from the start is not the movie we got. Like, I think those are two completely different films.
I agree.
Love this. I think
what I like about it, knowing what we have going forward, which is nothing from this universe, is that it's very much a sequel to the first movie, which is what I like. Yeah. And it didn't really like acknowledge the rest of the universe, which I was fine with, because I wasn't like, I'm fine with just moving on from this universe. Like, they didn't need to reference it anymore.
I agree. And like, I don't know if you mentioned it here, Connor, or if this is in the past, but like, you had mentioned that there's like James Wan has a like flair to his movies, and it's not there in this one. Like,
it's not present at all. You can't see his directorial style at all.
Like in the first one, like, if you like that movie or not, if like the explosions are weird or not to you, at least that was his like, feels like he was expressing his filmmaking style. It was unique. I did not feel that here.
This felt super like studio made, whereas the first one actually had that like flair of there's something unique here, there's something visually interesting about this film, and then this one was just straight up generic.
I agree. Yeah,
I don't really disagree with that. Oh, my number 13 though. Daren, I'm sorry.
No, don't do it.
Blue Beetle.
Whoa, you hate Blue Beetle? I can't believe
my number 13 is Blue Beetle. I kind of like Darren said about Aquaman 2. It's kind of a nothing film for me.
That's crazy.
I don't know, man. I found so many. Like, I like Zolo as Blue Beetle. I like Blue Beetle and Jaime himself in this movie a lot. I don't really care about his family, honestly. A lot of them annoyed me. I'm not gonna lie. The uncle, dude, George Lopez, I was like, I just want to go watch the George Lopez show right now, because I like him more in that show than I like him in this fucking movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I never show up on this channel again, this is why.
This is why.
I'm just kidding.
You hate Blue Beetle, huh?
No, I said I like Zolo. I like Jaime. I like Blue Beetle. I don't like this movie very much. You hate the film.
That's what I'm hearing out of this.
Connor, look, I gave it 2.5 on Letterboxd. It's okay. It's not that bad.
Okay, because it's my next one as well, but I gave it 3.
Okay, there we go. So it's your number 12?
Yeah, it's my number 12.
Oh, there we go. We're just flowing.
We're actually, we're really like, we've got very similar lists on this. Damn. But I mean, I feel like really similar, where I know a lot of people were like, it was nice to have this pretty simple, chill superhero film that isn't trying to be this big universe or isn't trying to be this big franchise thing. Is just focused on a character and his family and whatever. Me personally, I'm over that in superhero films. I felt like this was a generic origin story, and it just felt similar to the kind of superhero film we've seen 10 out of 10 times over the last 15, 20 years. That, like, yeah, I liked Jaime, I liked Zola as Jaime. I think the casting was great. I think a lot of that sort of stuff was perfect. Like, in terms of bringing this character into the DCU, I've got no problem with that. I think he'd make a great Jaime in the DCU, and I think he would work really well alongside the other characters. Like, the one thing I got out of this film was I would love to see these characters and these castings transferred over into the DCU, because I think they're really good. Like, I love Zola from Cobra Kai. I think he's fantastic as Miguel in that. And I think the one thing I can say this film does really well is just the characters themselves. But in terms of the overall story and the overall just the intensity and everything surrounding that, I didn't get a whole lot out of it. Like, I felt like it just sort of it felt forgettable to me. It felt like a film that I have no real desire to revisit. Like, even if they bring Jaime into the DCU, I'm probably not going to rewatch this film, because it's like I've seen it once. I don't need to see it again. I think I can just remember everything because it's so generic and simple. It's a simple story, and that's fine. I know a lot of people want that, but for me, I kind of was expecting something a little bit fresher, something a little bit more unique. But I know, I mean, I still like it. I still enjoyed it for what I got out of it. I wanted more.
So, I watched this with Andrew when I was visiting back home for a while,
Okay.
and that's the main reason I remember this movie. I'm not even gonna lie to you. If I watched it
Yeah.
alone, I don't know if I'd really remember it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I also do think, though, like, I'll talk about it once I get there, which is going to be a bit, but, like,
Oh
I
wow.
do think it is like
Me number one.
close. No, but like, I do think it is a more like you're either going to love it or you're just not going to vibe. I do think it's a very personal movie where, like, if you do love it, you love it. Like, you just genuinely think it's amazing. But I can also totally get the vibe. It's just like, yeah, I've seen this movie like 5 times and it doesn't work for me, and I can't understand that, like, outlet of it. But I'm very curious to talk about why I think that all works. Why everything you guys talked about, why I think that all works in its favor. So that's gonna be fun, I think.
Okay.
All right,
No, I think this is good. Like,
we'll see where it falls on your list.
Yeah.
I think it's good because it's like there's like good contrast here between some of these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it my turn next then?
Go for it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brayden. I got The Flash at my number
Oof.
12. Which, I mean, what a fall for The Flash, because I think it started as like my number 7, number 8, number 9. Like, I actually liked it when I first came out of the theater. I did.
I don't think it's moved that much for me. That's all I'll say.
It's moved for me. It has moved for me.
And the Flash is my favorite, like, DC character. Obviously, anyone who knows me, I love the, like, CW Flash. I'm a massive fan of the character. I love him.
That's where we differ.
I know. But like, I feel like I'm looking back on it, I think I actually need to rewatch it. Like, I think I'm desperately in a need to rewatch this movie, because I don't know how much of my dislike of it is just me talking about it so much and thinking about what didn't work. Like, I think I ultimately focused on a lot of what didn't work, and I kind of forgot what I did like about it. I do think there's a lot of charm to this film, but I think ultimately a lot of it just did not work for me. I also don't think it helped that, like, everyone and their grandma talked about how great this film was and how it was that they got Tom Cruise to say it was like the greatest film ever made. Like, they got all these different things kind of going into it. Like, James Gunn said it was the best superhero movie ever made. Like, there was a lot of hype going into it. There was a long awaited wait for this movie, and a lot of it ultimately did not work for me. Again, some things did. Ezra Miller, I actually, if you like him as Flash or if you don't, I think he did a good job here, or they did a good job here. Like, I think they really, really took what the film gave them and made it into something really cool. I like your Batman here. Like, I think they treated Batman very well. I loved Sasha as Cal. I think Sasha as your Supergirl was my favorite takeaway from the movie. I just think that, especially that third act structure for it, did not work for me whatsoever. I think you had some cool elements sprinkled in here. I think it had some things that could have worked and could have been cool, but I think you take the climax of the film and then you're like, oh hey, look over there at all our cool shiny things. Look at your Adam West Batman, and you're this and you're this, and I think all the controversies around those really dragged it. Like, not only, you know, from what we heard of families not knowing that they were even in the movie, you know, from what they did with like their AI, but also just like took away from what I think could have been a really cool plot. But you know, again, it's not all bad. Like, this is another one where I've heard people say it's the worst superhero movie ever made, and I straight up don't agree with that. I think it's very far from the worst of all time. I just think there's other things we could have done here, and also as like, I would argue this is the proper closeout of like the DCEU. Like, I think of the end of I consider the end of the Flash. They create a new timeline, and then Aquaman 2 is set in that new timeline. Like, that's kind of how I took the ending. And I think as your final moment in a universe, it's a bit weird. But I'm hogging up so much time. Who wants to talk about their 11?
Can I just say, right, that
Yeah.
I definitely don't think Flash is anywhere near the worst comic book film of all time. I do think, though, The Flash might be the most problematic comic book film of all time in terms of just modern day. I think that whole AI scene with the multiverse stuff, I cannot believe that got made. And I also 100% think that certain people were maybe paid to prop up this film, because I honestly cannot believe that many people were like, this is the greatest comic book film of all time, would have seen like that in the film. I can't believe that didn't, like, George Reeves.
As someone that likes the movie, I completely agree with you.
I hate that scene so much. Like, James Gunn, I get, like, he literally had to do it. I understand. Tom Cruise,
I get that from
no
his
way. There's no way Tom Cruise was like, actually, this is
all the
cinema.
people
like,
as well.
Wait, Darren, that was your number 12, right?
That was my number 12, yeah.
Okay.
But again, like, I may like rewatch it soon and be like, oh, actually, it's better than my 11 or 10 or something. Like, I don't know. Okay. We'll see.
I was just making sure, because you said who wants to talk about 11. I haven't said my number 12.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, my number 12 is Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Fair enough.
Hey,
look, other than Freddy, there's not really much here for me, like, heart-wise. Like, I wish they focused more on the family element like they did in the first one. I feel like that was like a very important and integral piece of the first movie that I love so much, and it was kind of lacking here. Also, Wonder Woman showing up to bring Shazam back to life makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why can Wonder Woman all of a sudden just bring people back to life?
I hate that scene.
I hate it too
so much.
That's part of why it's this low.
My God.
I don't know, just compared to the like first movie, it's not super consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as emotional. I don't think it's as like full of heart as the first movie was. That's kind of why it falls this low. But I don't hate it in any way. It's fine. The villains are kind of meh. I wish they would have just went ahead and did Savannah with the Dr. Brain, or what the fuck's
that little worm guy.
Mr. Mind. Mr. Mind. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
That guy kept coming back, and I don't know why they kept him in that second film. Like, you clearly knew.
Yeah, they knew what was going on.
Like, you could have cut that.
That's my biggest problem with the DCU at this point, was they kept teasing things and never following up on them. Like, just constantly teasing things and never following up.
Yeah. Like, I made a video a while back, and it actually got like a decent amount of views. I was surprised. But it's like the fact that DC is so bad at following up its post-credit scene. Like, what's the point of half of these?
Like, here's Harcourt recruiting Shazam for the Justice Society.
Even the animated movies, dude. Like, in animation, they're bad about following it up.
I think the first one actually kind of works as like a send-off like to that character. Like, I think it works as like a comedy type scene for him, that like if you never see him as like part of the group, that's fine, because it kind of plays off as like he's a kid and he's stupid, and you know, he got the two teams mixed up, where like the Worm was like, oh yeah, they were clearly setting up a third film or a fourth film or a fifth film, you know, like
I mean, I completely agree. It's like it's funny because it's like, you know, Billy really wanted to get into the Justice League, but it's the Justice Society that comes to get him. Like, that is funny. I do. Think
so almost just like, how long did you really expect this to go, given everything you knew before? Like, you were even shooting Shazam 2, because like, when were you ever gonna get to Shazam versus Black Adam? Probably not.
But the thing is like the MCU, they did credit scenes where they tease things as well. But the MCU, even though they knew they were guaranteed these films, they still always followed up on their stuff pretty quickly. Like, we got a Captain America Civil War tease at the end of Ant-Man. Ant-Man was the next film, or Captain America Civil War was the first film after Ant-Man. Like, that's what the DCU should have been doing. They should have been teasing the next films, not films 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah,
Or at least they used
definitely.
to. I think they're kind of getting bad about that nowadays, where like you have your homecoming post credit scene, and we haven't seen anything in 9 years or
No, yeah,
whatever, right?
that is
Like,
fair. That is well, unless you count Morbius,
yeah. Oh gosh, I
greatest
kind
film
of
of all
want to
time.
It's
do.
like so like if the I would like for like the new DCEU shows to like I would be cool if the post credit scenes of those, like the finale of those, like tease the next movie or something.
Yeah, I'd be cool
But
with
as
that.
far as like the movies teasing shows, I'm not really for that.
Yeah, because it's going to
Yeah.
be hard to like line up the like production timelines. So because
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
TV shows take different
long.
production timelines than movies do.
I do think the shows should be in a weird area. Well, obviously they are part of the main thing, but also should like not connect to the movie in a super strong way. Like Green Lanterns are clearly going to connect to the movies, but I do think it has to be a thing where you should not have to watch Green Lanterns to understand like a
Yeah,
Justice League.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
because
it,
I don't know
that's
if
what the
I just
MCU is
had too
struggling with at
much
the moment.
confidence in James Gunn or not, but I'm not really worried about that. I think James Gunn
same.
knows like
I
how
Yeah,
to
think James
balance
Gunn
that.
just I think he's watching what's going wrong with the MCU and is like taking
yeah,
notes to not do that, and that's kind of where the MCU's fallen down at the moment. Is like their
yes,
TV
yes.
shows needing to be seen for movies.
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. You can go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to go down a whole nother lane, so I'm gonna stop while I can. While we get back on track.
All right,
I was like, we
Connor,
can go down that rabbit
what's
hole.
your number 11?
All right, this is the one where I think I'm going to start rustling feathers
Oh
with my
no.
choices. But I do want to preface this by saying that I actually like every film from this point on. Like I'm up to like the 3.5 out of 5s in terms of my ratings now. So like I do like this film, and I'd like it even a little bit more every time I rewatch it. But Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of the One Harley Quinn, is that the full
Yep.
name of it?
Good job.
Okay, thank you. My biggest problem with Birds of Prey is that it's called Birds of Prey. It should be called it should be just be Harley Quinn
Harley
film with
Quinn.
maybe
Yeah,
featuring
I
like
agree.
Huntress, Black Canary, Renee, all that sort of stuff. Like,
Huntress is
um,
only in like 10 minutes of the movie.
yeah, but like in Ireland, they wasn't even called Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley. It was called Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. Like I remember when I went like my cinema
That
tickets here in
makes
the
That's
more
wall, and it
better.
says
sense. It's a
Harley
shorter
Quinn
Yeah.
Birds of
title. It
Prey.
fits on theater marquees. It gets the point
Yeah.
across.
Yeah,
And I think more
like
people would have shown up.
no,
If
it
you just
absolutely
had
because it was one of the last films before COVID.
COVID,
And I remember
yeah,
the
it was.
cinema was empty when I seen like COVID like didn't hit for another 2 or 3 weeks, but it was just an empty cinema, and I was
Yeah.
there on opening day.
I will say it's insane to me that I don't think COVID had hit, but it didn't hit like big. We weren't in lockdown yet in the States.
Yeah,
Like we weren't freaking out about it yet. That came like
Yeah.
in March basically. That's when everyone started freaking the
yeah,
fuck
it
out.
was like early March for us as well.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was my last film prior to COVID. Like
I
I
think
think
It was the
Sonic was
last
mine.
film I saw in theaters before COVID, definitely.
I'm trying to figure it out because I got my tickets on the wall, and I've got Sonic here, which was 18th of February, and then Birds of Prey was okay. No, yeah, Sonic was last because
So
Birds of Prey is 7th of February, and then
I will
Sonic
say,
18th.
even though this is your entry, I'll get to it later. Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead are my favorite parts of this movie, and it's
No,
crazy to
they're
me
my
that they're
favorite.
married.
Yeah, you should watch True Detective season 3. They're like both in it, and they're the main
Oh, dude,
part of
that sounds awesome to me.
it. It was really good, but
Dude, I wanted
no,
a
I
Huntress
like.
movie after this, though. That's all I'm gonna
I
say.
wanted a film of all of them. Like I wanted like a Black Canary film.
Yeah.
Like we were supposed to get Black Canary film for so long because I think Black
Yeah.
Canary in this is great as well. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I think all the individual parts are really good. I just
Yeah.
overall, it was a very artsy film. Like there was a lot kind of, it was
I feel
focused on
like
Harley
that's what I
Quinn, so
kind
they
of
made
like
it feel
about
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's got like this different kind of vibe to it.
It does. Yeah, it
Mm,
definitely
yeah.
does.
There's
Like it's
nothing.
a really well made film.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, and like that's something I actually think the like the DCU does better than the MCU. Is I think, like them or not, each one feels different. Like
does,
each
yeah.
film in here feels like a different genre, or maybe not genre, but like a different style, a different feel, a different tone. This movie is like, we'll get to that mine later, but like it's tone wise is nothing like anything in the MCU. Like or in like the DCU. Like it's very goofy, like some of these others are, but it's goofy in a different way than like Aquaman is goofy. Like
It still
it's
has
very
like a serious
interesting.
tone to it. It still feels kind of grounded.
It gets dark at times too. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it
it
does.
gets serious. Yeah.
Like it's dealing with Harley Quinn's mind in a way that I think really works.
Yes.
Like to
yes.
the point where it's a Harley Quinn solo film that happens to feature the Birds of Prey. Like,
Yeah.
and the weird thing as well is,
given the
it-
fact that it's Harley, like the tone of it all makes sense to me.
yeah, I completely agree with that. But it's like, it's just, I don't know from a marketing sense why they didn't just go with just calling it Harley
Yeah.
Quinn. Like,
Me either,
bad
because she's
marketing.
undoubtedly the
Who
most
cares about Birds of
popular
Prey?
character in the movie.
Like, what general audience cares about seeing Huntress or Black
Yeah.
Canary
How
in a
ma- how
film? They don't know
many?
who they are yet.
Yeah, how many general audiences like members know what the Birds of Prey even are?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like,
terrible
I don't
marketing.
know.
Horrendous.
Like I'm someone that's like into this stuff, and I wouldn't know what it was if I didn't like just in passing hear about like the Birds of Prey show and stuff, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
also they've shown
sure.
like Birds of Prey / like Gotham City Sirens and some animated stuff. Like they'd show up
I
in
mean, remember
Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
people thought this was supposed to be Gotham City Sirens for a while. I remember
Yeah,
like when it was
yeah, I
coming out,
remember
like, down the
that.
line, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, is this one with Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn? Like,
It
oof,
should have
no,
been.
that's a
I
different
think.
project.
We
It should have been,
need
yeah.
give us Poison Ivy.
I feel like
Yeah.
we'll get her in the DCU pretty quick.
Dude, she's like Batman's most powerful villain, right? Like I don't know who the fuck's more
Yeah.
powerful than her in
Yeah.
Batman's Rogues Gallery.
She was in DC TV twice within these last like 8 or so years, and she hasn't been in the movie.
She was great in Batwoman.
She was so good, and then they got rid of her. Oh, that pissed me off. They're
Bro,
like, oh,
all
you can have her
respect
for...
to all respect to Uma Thurman, but Poison Ivy needs to be redeemed on the big screen.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Man, that pissed me. I don't mean to go back, but like they said you can have her for 3 episodes, and then we had to have her back. Like that pissed me
Yeah.
off. Oh,
Like, where was she even used after Batwoman then? Because like I don't know why they took her away because she
No.
wasn't in anything.
it was
She
very
didn't
clear
show up
she
in
should have been
Titans
the
at
like,
all or
main
anything?
villain.
No.
Batwoman
Yeah,
and
it was like
Gotham,
Gotham and then Batwoman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like they surrounded the whole season around it being her. Like it felt like, oh, she's still going to be our villain, and then they learned, oh wait, we had to do Joker because we can't use
Yeah.
Joker. You can
Well,
do
it's
Joker,
like-
but not Poison
it's a
Ivy.
fake
What?
Joker. It's like a new Joker. It's someone saying that they're a
Oh,
Joker.
so it's like
and someone else.
Gotham. It's like
Yeah,
Gotham. Let's do
yeah.
20,000 Jokers.
Yeah, it's a thing where like the like Joker created this guy to be like psychotic, and now he's like the like new like Joker 2.0 is in
Yeah.
town type of thing.
And he had a really cool
Yeah.
blimp.
Which was
I
still
like
cool. Like
so they kind of did that in the new Batman Adventures. Like a Joker was recreating his origin, or like Jack Ryder, who is a newscaster, was there talking about the origin of the Joker the night the Joker was born, and he just throws him in a vat of acid, and this guy becomes the Creeper.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Aaron, what's your number 11?
My 11, I won't spend too much time on this because we already talked about it, but it's Black Adam. I had a lot of fun with Black Adam. I genuinely, when I came out of the theater, I think it was in like my top like 6 or 7. Like I genuinely really loved it. I loved it so much. I bought a t-shirt. I currently have Dwayne
cool.
Johnson as Black Adam on a t-shirt currently. And now it's a funny, like, I think it's
The hierarchy of
hilarious.
your wardrobe is about to change.
I know, like it's a hilarious bit. Now I kind of feel weird, like going out with like a Black Adam TV shirt or you know, like a shirt. No, I think this movie is a lot of fun. I think I've never seen a Fast and the Furious movie, but this is what I think a Fast and the Furious movie is. Like it feels like
Honestly, that's pretty accurate.
like
Yeah, honestly, it's not that far off.
like I went into this movie expecting a dumb superhero movie popcorn flick, and that's exactly what I got. And I had a fun time. You know, I also had just got done with like an 8-hour shift. I was tired. I was ready to have some fun, and I genuinely did. And I think I do actually like Dwayne Johnson in this movie. Like it feels like I don't like how he kind of was like, oh, he needs to be like the center of DC and stuff. But like, I love how passionate he was about Black Adam. Like he loves this character. Like I've seen very little actors love their characters. Like he's so passionate about it, even if that's a little off of what the Black Adam character was. And I think my main thought about the movie is it should have just been a JSA film. Like they should have just made a JSA because I think it would have been much better. Because that's such.
Yeah, just
I think
have
it
Black
would've done
Adam
better.
be the villain. I don't get why The Rock was so against being a villain because
why does he-
okay, right now in
Yeah.
WWE, he's back, right? And he's playing a heel character, which is basically just a villain in wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fucking great. And that's just now
And-
started, but I'm looking forward
and-
to seeing more of him playing a villain because it's cool.
And also, like, I think he can play the long game. Like, look at Loki. Currently. Loki is one of the most
Like
beloved
despite
MCU
what you
characters.
think of The Rock, his talent or anything like that, he's not a dumb man. He's a businessman at the
No.
end of the day. Like he knows how to read a crowd, he understands people, he knows how to take reactions online.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I love the idea where maybe you have a Justice League villain and he's like the main threat or something, and then over the years we see him, and maybe then he gets a movie. Then you get to see him like climb back up the ranks and become like an actual like anti-hero type character. Like there's ways of going about this that I think could have been so much neater, so much
Yeah, I've
better.
heard people disrespect Black Adam like as a character when talking about this movie, like calling him like a
He's
third
cool.
tier DC villain. I'm like, whoa, okay, Black Adam's pretty fucking powerful, okay?
He's cool. Yeah, he's a cool character. And I think it is definitely a movie as time has passed. I was like, yeah, that wasn't as good as I thought as I first saw the movie. And again, there was also the hype around Superman with this movie. Like that also really helped. Like Superman finally is back, and then he announced he was coming back full time. I was like, yeah, this is the coolest thing. So yeah, that's my number 11. I still enjoy this movie. Like it's a film that I would put on again. Like if it's just like on TV, I'd be like, yeah, let's watch it. Let's have fun here.
Yeah, but like I like Black Adam. Like my favorite depiction of him that I've probably seen is like in the Injustice games. I don't know. I think he's really good in the story of those games.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think like there definitely should have been more of an attempt if you're really adamant on bringing in Black Adam in a big way, and you have a Shazam film and a Black Adam film coming out within what was it, like 6 months of each other?
I would have loved for like Black
Why are they
Adam
not
just to
trying
be
it?
this like ruthless villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would have improved both movies as well. Like
it absolutely would have. Yeah.
into two. As someone who likes both enough, like I think it would have been a better story.
Yeah. Like it just I don't. And like knowing that I mean I respect Dwayne's passion for the character, but knowing that they tried to connect the Shazam and the Black Adam stuff, and he was like, absolutely no. He was like, no, I want Superman, and that's it. And like as a big Superman fan, I still think it's so stupid that he was so against making Black Adam fight his villain to Black Adam, his villain in the comics. Like that's so stupid. It's like if
literally, dude, you have the same emblem. You have the same emblem on your chest.
But it's like doing a Lex Luthor film, and then the actor for Lex Luthor is like, no, I'm not fighting Superman. I want Flash as my villain. Like, no.
That's not how it works.
And there's also not like villains aren't loved. Like I feel like 9 times out of 10 people love the villains more than they love the heroes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could be a beloved villain. And again, like your Loki and stuff. That
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I feel like a lot of times the villain is what makes the hero more interesting.
I was going to say, I think the villain most of the time makes the movie.
Yeah.
Like you can have a really good hero, but if you don't have a good villain in the movie for the hero to come up against, it can sometimes not work.
Yeah, extremely important. Well, my number 11 is a movie you both already talked about, Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom.
Oh, nice.
Or Aquaman The Lost Kingdom. What's the official title? Yeah, Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom.
Yep.
Patrick Wilson was good in this movie. He was also very ripped. I didn't know, I didn't expect that. I had heard he had gotten pretty fit, but I wasn't expecting that, man. I didn't know Patrick Wilson could. I didn't expect him to be able to put on that much muscle, to be honest. Seeing those Conjuring movies where he's just like an average guy. He's a great actor, though. And, yeah, he kind of carried this movie, I'm not going to lie.
He definitely carries it.
He 100% does. Yeah. Easily.
I was shocked that Black Manta wasn't used more. That was my, like, that was the weirdest thing with the movie to me. Especially with, like, I've said from the beginning I wasn't, like, the biggest fan of the first Aquaman because I didn't love the whole, like, how Black Manta was utilized in it. I thought they should have just saved him for the sequel, and he should have been the main villain. And he's not even really the main villain of this movie, which I'm like, I don't understand. He's not the main villain, man. I don't understand. Why are you putting him in both movies and not having him be the main villain of one of them?
Yeah, that's absurd. And also it's a weird thing because he was supposed to get his own film. So I wonder how much changed, how much they had to do in this movie to make that switch.
I think they just brought the trench and made whatever they were going to do into this, like combined the two films.
Which I think could have been a sick movie. Like I would have liked to have seen it.
Hey, I'm looking forward to Swamp Thing because it's DC horror.
Yeah.
And James Mangold directing, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. That'd be so cool.
I don't know. I've heard bad things about Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah.
I feel like Disney probably were like overly on him about that.
Probably.
How much was his actual vision? I think Disney does that a lot. Too much. Way too much. Where it's like, are you even a real director of this movie, or are you just like your Kevin Feige or like your Bob Iger, kind of like
a big name to put on it?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like people are going to see this film if we've got a big director name on it. Like you're not actually directing it; you're just kind of here to be somebody to have your name on it.
I mean, and I can prove that with your like Disney live action. Like you can tell Jon Favreau in Jungle Book and Jon Favreau in Lion King are two different directors. Like those
Yeah.
are two different people. Like, oh, I don't know.
All right, Connor. We're getting into the top 10. What's your
All
number
right,
Top
10?
let's
10.
go.
Mr.
Top
Pink
10
Kid
DC
Fun.
films. Let's go. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. But I actually really
Okay.
like.
Hey, our lists still aren't that different.
No, yeah,
Okay.
they're pretty similar. Like I think the only stuff that I have in my ones in the moment that you don't is Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
But no, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I like it. I do. I just it's kind of like the Aquaman 1 and 2 situation, but to a less extent, where I feel like a lot of the things are the exact same, but it feels like there's less passion and less care put into the sequel. Like but I think it's to a less extent. Whereas I personally think Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom almost feels soulless compared to
Damn.
what Aquaman 1 feels
Holy
like.
shit.
Yeah, that's pretty. That is pretty harsh. I
That's
feel
a
like
hard,
Aquaman
yeah,
2.
that's a
It
hardcore
just
criticism.
it feels like they were making it without they didn't care when they were making it. With Shazam 2, I don't think they didn't care when they were making it. There's definitely a feeling that they still wanted to make a good project, but like you said when you were talking about it, Brayden, it feels like there's not as much heart in it as the first one. It feels like they lost some of the stuff that made the first one such a, in my opinion, almost perfect film. Freddy was what made this film for me. This Shazam 2 is such an awkward film because Zachary Levi was being so weird, like right before it came out and then right
Yeah.
after it came out. He was doing a lot of weird stuff. He was bringing out videos being like, don't go see John Wick 4 this weekend,
Yeah,
go see Shazam 2.
What?
Like, why are you doing that? Why are you
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
he brought it. He went on Instagram and he did like an Instagram reel thing where he was like, "Look, the John Wick 4. It's a very violent film. You know, if you're bringing your family to a film this weekend, consider bringing them to Shazam: Fury of the Gods." And it's
yeah,
like,
that pissed me off.
don't do this.
Bro,
It's
you
so
can't.
weird.
No, you can't.
I love
Yeah,
him
you
as
can't
an
just.
actor.
You
It
can't
makes
just
people not want to
dog.
see your film.
Yeah, no, you can't just dog another movie like that. Come on, bro.
Yeah, like
I
I
love
don't
him
know.
as an actor, but these last like year or so has been so weird. Like he's
It's
on a
been really
really
weird.
weird kick.
He
It
hasn't been
is, yeah.
handling stuff very well.
He's been
No.
like, James Gunn's you're gonna bring me into your new DC films. You're gonna bring me. He keeps doing that every few weeks.
Yeah.
There's an article where he's like, I'm hoping that I get a phone call one of these days to say I'm back.
Oh,
And
But yeah,
it's
I
not
think
helping
it's
his
a fine movie.
case.
yeah.
Like
Don't you
I
don't
like
you don't want to seem desperate, man. Come on.
Yeah, no,
like
exactly.
I think there was at some point I thought there could have been a solid chance that they brought him back. Now I mean I wouldn't. After everything he said, after everything we've seen him post, I would not bring an actor like that in where you're trying to have a fresh start. I
Yeah,
absolutely would not.
yeah. Like you want to bring this stuff in with as
The most
least
positive,
positive and bring in as many unproblematic elements as possible, which unfortunately
100%.
Zachary Levi is kind of falling back into the problematic section where
I
it's
don't.
like
I don't
this is
think
what it's-
Shazam's going to be a focus early on. I don't think
No.
that's going to be where
No, I
James
mean I
Gunn
don't
is
think he
going
should
at
be.
all. No, me either.
I think
Yeah,
you hold off, you bring him in later on.
Yeah, I think every major player in like your DCEU is going to take a bit of a break. So I think your Shazam, I think your Aquaman, and I think your Harley Quinn are going to take a little bit of a break.
Yeah, which they should. Like, I
I
mean,
agree.
those are characters you can kind of hold off on. Like, I know Aquaman is a founding member, but I
You
wouldn't
can
mind
wait. Yeah.
if they went a direction of
How long is it going to be until
Atlantis
they
to
get
really
the
seal it off.
Justice League though? Because I would hope
I
they're
mean,
taking
pretty
their
soon.
time this time around.
I think Chapter 1 is supposed to be kind of based around Justice League: The New Frontier.
I mean, that
Yeah.
makes
I
sense,
think
but
end of
like
Chapter
Chapter
1 we're going
One's
to be
going to
seeing
be
that, but it's
quite a
going to be a
few
different lineup.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because we've got
So
like 20
there
projects.
there are a few films like they haven't announced the name of, correct, Connor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple that they're like we're
One of those
holding off
better be a
announcing the
Wonder
back
Woman
half.
movie.
But yeah, because if they're doing Paradise Lost as like a
Yeah,
prequel,
That's
I think
what
they kind of
that's
get
what
Wonder
I'm
Woman.
saying. Like, why would they do a prequel to Wonder Woman if there's not something Wonder Woman coming? Like,
Yeah,
soon?
yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah,
you
I
don't do
think if
Themyscira if you're not gonna bring in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly.
argue
That's
that
the only
the
thing
end of
people
this
care about. Like,
part
bro,
of
I
the
don't want to
story-
see Hippolyta versus Hades. I want to see Wonder Woman. Come on, bro.
I think it'd be incredibly cool if we found out the casting of that character through like the end of the show. Like your post credit scene is the casting announcement.
Yeah,
It's like
Diana
yeah, you know
Walker
what I
or
mean?
something.
Yeah, like that'd be sick as hell.
Yeah, which I feel like we're gonna start seeing a lot of that as these projects start to come out. We're not gonna be seeing as much casting announcements. We're gonna be seeing them actually in these projects.
Yeah.
You know, it's called
Or-
Paradise Lost, and given
Sorry.
that, like, what the phase 1 of the DCU is called Gods and Monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it could end up being kind of important, given
Yeah.
because just what makes me say that is there's an episode of Justice League, the animated show, all of Paradise Lost, and it's like this huge arc
Yeah.
between like with Hades. And I'm like, it's Hades? Like, are we gonna get Hades? That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because like I don't want to see Ares again. You did that like
No, I
7 years
don't. I don't really
ago.
want to
Like
see a whole lot of
Hades
that
would be
stuff for
cool.
later on.
Yeah.
I think like they
Like the
need to be
mythology
fresh.
stuff.
I mean, the mythology stuff. It's never really been something about DC or Marvel that I've been super into. Like I love Wonder Woman as a character, but I've never cared a whole lot about the like the Greek mythology
You
parts of
just
the
like
character.
her more like in man's world and adjusting to that and such.
Well, like I like Themyscira and stuff like that, but I think it's like I like seeing Themyscira as a contrast
To the
to
real
our
world.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like when they start like the beginning of Wonder Woman where they're digging into like the creation and all that sort of stuff. Even in Justice League when we're showing like the various groups coming together to fight Darkseid thousands of years ago. Like those are the stuff that never really hyped me up a whole lot.
Yeah.
Bro,
I think the only reason
are
I'm
the only
actually
animals they have on Themyscira horses?
I think we saw goats in one of them, didn't we?
Goats? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have much animal life.
Maybe, but they probably got fish as well. I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I would assume they're next to the ocean.
Is a fish a animal though?
Yes.
I'd say no.
What do you mean?
It's a fish.
Yeah, that's
And
an animal. That's in the
I'm
animal
not-
kingdom.
I'm not educated enough on the subject, but I would say yes, they are an animal.
We
We're
must fight right
animals,
now.
Darren. Humans are animals.
No, I think they're like a subspecies or.
What do you mean?
Let me look this
They're
up.
like
Is
it's
a
like-
fish an animal? Fish
Tell
are
us in the
aquatic
comments down
vertebrate
below.
animals.
A fish is
According
an
to
animal that
University of
has a
Hawaii.
bunch of subspecies, Darren, but fish is like the overall animal.
Yeah,
Like a
are you
swordfish
thinking
Okay,
of
is.
fair
like the
enough.
way like fish or mammals are like different?
Okay, fair enough then. Fair enough.
Lord, okay.
I mean, humans are animals as well.
where
so-
where are we
Okay,
at? What-
It's my turn. Speaking
Okay,
of
So we just got through
controversy-
with Connor's number 10, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's where we
yeah,
are.
yeah.
Speaking
let's
of
go.
speaking of controversies, Connor, I'm so sorry.
This is Batman v Superman. I swear.
It's Batman v Superman.
Oh,
Greatest film of our time.
I know.
Connor, I'll
Oh,
let you go. I'll let you go. You can get in on it.
Hold me back,
Okay.
Brayden. Hold me back.
Okay, okay. So I always feel very
Oh,
bad
man.
when I, on like just in the 5 or 6 weeks that Connor has kind of been over on my show. Like I feel like once an episode like Batman v Superman comes up, and I was like, "Hold your tongue, Darren. Don't bash one of his all-time favorite movies. Don't you do it."
You want to be careful.
I respect this movie a lot. I really do. Like when it comes to like making adaptations for DC stuff, I always say I want to see new things. Like I always want to see just like adapting a new thing. I always want you to do something different with these projects. And I fully mean that. And I can respect Batman v Superman for doing something very different. Same with like your Man of Steel. I just don't like it. And I think the worst thing about this movie is something I talked about in the early bit. I think it happens way too early. I think this movie, having this be what your second film in like a cinematic universe, or your first film introduces Superman and your second film kills him, I think is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a comic book movie. I genuinely really hate that. And I also just think they do so many of these little things to the characters. I think killing off Jimmy Olsen in the second movie is really dumb. I think what they did to your Dick Grayson as well, I think is really dumb. There's some goods. There's some like legitimately great stuff in here though. Like I think the actors act. Like they act. They are really good. This is my hot take. I genuinely love Lex Luthor. Like I think this version of Lex had potential. And I think the like screenplay that they wrote for the film was really good. I like genuinely really liked it. And I think if he would have shown up more outside of this movie, he would have grown on people. Like I really do think that. I'm not a huge fan of the whole Martha thing. It doesn't piss me off, but like I also don't like love it. Like I think it's, you can take it or leave it. It doesn't ruin it for me. There's some cool action things in here. Like there is a coolness to seeing Batman and Superman fight on screen. Like there is a coolness to that. And just having Superman and Batman in a film at like the same time, that is cool. But I also think there is a bit of like, I do think this kind of tarnished a bit of the name that DC had for himself. Like I feel like we still haven't escaped people still thinking this is what DC is all these years later, just this very dark and gritty thing, But like again, like I think it's a very well made film. Like I think Snyder cooked with this movie. If you like it or not, I would say it is a very well made film. It's just not one that I typically enjoy as a fan of some of these DC characters. Connor, you can go cut my head off now. I'm totally okay with that.
I mean, I'm not gonna mention too much about it. I'll hold off until I get
Okay.
to it later on my list, wherever it may be. Who knows? Maybe it's the next one on the list. But I mean, I do agree with a lot of what you said. Like Jimmy Olsen, for example, killing him, making him a CIA
pissed me
agent,
off.
and then killing him off in like the second scene of the film, and then not actually telling people he's Jason Todd until the ultimate edition of the cut comes out, where he's just an unnamed CIA agent in the first cut of the film, and then it comes out later on and it's revealed as Jimmy Olsen. Like, that is ridiculous. That shows a fundamental misunderstanding and mishandling of DC characters and of knowing what characters are important to the wider mythology of this DC universe you're building. Like, you absolutely should not bring in Jimmy Olsen, who is in the comics named Superman's best pal, and kill him off in his very first scene, where you don't even let the audience know that's who the character is.
They don't even meet.
No, exactly. They don't even meet. It shows a real disrespect, I guess, for the comic books and for the characters you're adapting. And I completely disagree on Zack Snyder's handling of that. So that's all I'm going to say until I get to it later on my list. But I agree with a lot of what you said.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mostly agree with what you said too, Darren. Besides,
the Lex Luthor thing.
Yeah, besides that thing about Lex Luthor, but I'll just let that simmer for now.
Okay. Even if he's not I think he's easily the worst Lex Luthor we've had. I will say that. I think he isn't.
I'm not a fan of Lois and Clark's version, but
that's fair. I mean, I haven't seen every version as well. I just mean, like, from what I've seen, he's one of the worst. But like, I just think, like, I love watching that scene with him, like, monologue to Clark. Like, I enjoy just watching that scene. Like, I think it's good filmmaking. Like, I love with that. So again, like, maybe it's just a thing where, like, because, like, a lot of these I'd be very interested. Like, would I like Batman v Superman if it wasn't Batman and Superman? Like, if these were completely get you. Like, if these were completely fresh characters, would I enjoy it? And the answer might be yes, because I think it's a good movie.
I think it's a masterclass in terms of filmmaking. Like, genuinely, like, I think that's why I love it. I think it's just a really.
I agree with the filmmaking thing. I just don't like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor,
which is fair. Which is really fair. I thought it was really funny when, like, they had asked him, like, "Hey, like, do you have any advice?"
You can say that about almost any Zack Snyder movie, in my opinion. Though you can say it's a masterclass in filmmaking. Like, he is an incredible director as far as like storytelling goes, though. Sometimes, like, I wish.
No, that's
like
fair. That is fair.
He's good. I just wish he was a little quicker with it sometimes. But we'll get more into that. We'll get more into that later, because BBS is not next on my list. Number 10 on my list is Wonder Woman 1984.
Wow. Okay.
I can't believe you hate the film that I love.
What? Not Wonder Woman 1984?
Yeah, I love Wonder Woman.
I don't hate it.
This is my favorite film of all time.
It's not that bad.
Hate it.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, Brayden. Jeez.
My biggest problem with it is, like, the main plot element of the movie, which is just the Wish Stone. It's just introduced, like, so abruptly. It makes little to no sense. How it's all resolved makes little to no sense. Wonder Woman, I like Gal as Wonder Woman. I like her.
Yeah, same.
Wonder Woman's really good in this movie. It's nice seeing Chris Pine again, even though the circumstances he came back kind of make. I don't want to say they don't make sense, like, in terms of the movie, but they don't really spend much time, like, explaining what is actually going on. So Steve Trevor's just kind of taking over this guy's body, which was a big topic when this movie came out. But I'll just keep it at that. Connor's yet to speak about the movie. I like Cheetah. I like Maxwell Lord. I like the villains overall in the movie. But
I'll just jump straight to my number 9 then, because it is Wonder Woman 1984.
Oh, there we go.
That's so funny.
But, like, I should also say that from now on, every movie on my list is a 4 out of 5. Like, wow. I really like every movie. I loved Wonder Woman 1984 when I first saw it, but I rewatched it earlier on for the first time since I saw it, and it definitely dropped a little bit. Like, I found a lot of the first half of it a lot more cringy and a little bit harder to get through than I remember, but I still liked it enough. Like, it dropped from, I think, 6 down to 9. So it dropped a fair bit, but I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying about it. It's kind of weird, Steve Trevor being brought back. It was a choice. I get why they did it, because it's like they're trying to get their own little Peggy Carter Steve Rogers sort of dynamic going with the character, and like the first
I
Wonder Woman was
mean,
already heavily
Chris
based
Pine's
on Wonder
obvious.
Woman.
Chris Pine's honestly arguably the best actor in the movie too. So
No, he is. Yeah,
just
I
gonna throw
think he's
that
really
out
good.
though.
I think
Well,
he's great as
he's
Steve
so
Trevor.
good, so good.
Pedro Pascal is like as Maxwell Lord might be my not my he's not my favorite DCU villain, but he's up there. Like I really like him as Maxwell Lord. I think he kind of nails what the movie's going for. And like for all intents and purposes, the film it's supposed to feel like a 1980s cheesy
Yeah.
film, and that's pretty much what it is.
Sure.
Like they nail that sort of cheese 1980s sort of look and feel to it. Like it kind of feels the whole film feels like what a fake commercial inside of Stranger Things would look like.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of vibe to it.
Huh.
But it's a messy film. It's
Fitting,
way too long.
given Maxwell Lord was doing commercials like at the beginning of the movie and throughout the movie.
Yeah. That life is good, but it can be better. Which
Which
I
I
love that
quote,
so
I
much.
quote that all the time.
No, it's so
literally am-
good. It's so funny.
every
yeah.
literally every film movie I watch where it's like I think it's good, but it could be
But it
better.
can be better.
I
Yeah.
use that for all my reviews. I feel.
Maxwell Lord might be like the best part of this movie.
Oh, he's best part of
pretty
the film
great.
for me. This film would like easily be a 3 out of 5, even lower if he isn't in it. Like if anybody else is playing Maxwell Lord. But like I do think it's a messy film. It's stupidly long. It's a problematic film in terms of the Steve Trevor stuff. Like there's people talk about that a lot. There's also Gal Gadot. There's a lot of not great stuff, I guess, in terms of like what she's involved in and what she does. And there's knowing who she is in real life. Her going to Cairo to jump in front of a military truck to save that girl doesn't really like jive with who she is as a person. So there's a lot of like weird stuff because of that. But I feel like the film in the last half, it nails that epic sort of feel when she's trying to stop Maxwell Lord's whole wish thing, and like they're on like Maxwell Lord's broadcasting live on television, and then you see everyone around the world renouncing the wishes and stuff like that. Like it almost in a way kind of feels like an old fashioned Disney film in terms of the plot. Which I think that might have been what they were going for as well. But I mean, I guess it's not really fair to kind of justify the problems with the film by saying they were going for old kind of feels to it. Like that doesn't really, wipe away the bad things about the film. But I think putting it in that context makes it work a little better. I also think the action in the film is really good. I don't think it's as good as the first Wonder Woman in terms of action, but I think it still works.
Yeah.
And Connor, our lists have they've been very similar so far, but I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be going forward.
Oh,
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think
we've got pretty much outside of Birds of Prey. Our next top 8 are going to have to be all the same films, just different places, right?
Yeah, I still got my number 9, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Darren, you also still have your number 9, right?
I'm at number 9. Yeah. I have Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Oh, okay.
I loved this movie. I saw it.
Taste the rainbow, bitch.
I saw it twice in the same week. I came out of it and I was like, I loved this so much. I gotta go take my mom and we're gonna go see it. And I loved it the second time. I did legitimately. I couldn't find the problems that people were having with it. I couldn't understand them. Now it sat with me a little bit. I am starting to get some of it, but I legitimately think, and you're going to see that a little bit. Like I think there is something I really love about just a fun superhero movie, and I do think this was just a fun day out. And it kind of reminded me of just what I love about superheroes, which is just this kind of like one-off adventure with these guys, which is, you could argue is kind of what I fought off against with some of these other films. But I think this was a lot of fun. I liked the villains here. Could they have been stronger? Most definitely. I think the main issue I was having with almost every aspect of this film was like they didn't have enough time to, I think, properly utilize these different things. Like they had these storylines that we started to get into. Like I think Billy, he had something there that I think they were trying to go for. They just didn't have enough time. This idea that everyone around him is growing up and he's still that same boy. Like he's still that same kid. And like they're going off to college and they're trying to be their own superheroes. And he is this thing, this family that he has had. He's feeling like they're moving on without him. But I just don't think they have enough time to fully execute these ideas. The main problem that people have about Asher Angel's version of Billy is much more. He feels much more older than the Zachary Levi version, and
Yeah.
I do agree with that. But I think almost, and it's more of a headcanon. But like I kind of like the idea as like Shazam is his way to process these emotions, and it's his way to almost still be a child in a weird way. He can almost exist as this superhero and kind of have fun. Of course, that's nothing I can't give that credit to the film because they don't actually do it right. It's just something that how I interpreted those things. But like even as like a thing, like it didn't like bother me in like the ways that it may have bothered all these other people. And I just wanted to spend more time with them. Like I love seeing the family be superheroes. Like I love the opening of the film where there's this giant like car crash and they're being superheroes and they're saving cars and they're doing all these things. Like that felt like a very like 90s like superhero thing. I love the scene where the parents find out about him and like they have to come down. He's like, no, turn back into Billy. I need to talk to you for a minute. Like I think that scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire DCEU. I liked the Wonder Woman thing, but I think it does get old. Like I think doing that over and over again. Like I think Flash almost makes that scene even worse now, looking back on it, because like okay, we did it again. But I like this movie, man, and I think it's one of the most underrated superhero films. That's my hot take. I loved it. I will also say the age thing with the brother is a bit weird. Probably shouldn't be dating like on a 10,000-year-old woman, but I liked it. Sue me, I guess.
Valid. No, those are valid.
I mean, I like it. I like it enough.
Hell
Yeah, same. I mean, it's only what, one rank lower for me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I have it at 12, so it's a little lower, but it's not that bad.
And it has went down a lot. Like it originally was in my like top 5, and I had to like okay, he needed to send this
Yeah, it
down
used
a
to be
little bit.
higher for me too.
Yeah.
It stayed exactly the same place for me.
So, my number 9 is a movie I have the lowest, I guess, is the first Aquaman. And I love James
Oh,
Wan,
wow.
okay? I'm the James Wan lover here. Kind of hurts me that I have this movie lower than you guys, but honestly, this is like one of James Wan's like worst movies in my opinion. It's not that bad though. It's still not bad. It's good. I think James Wan can direct action. Like visually, this movie looks amazing. It's very beautiful. Story wise, I'm not like the biggest fan of it. It's fine. Like the story between Aquaman and Orm kind of carries over into Aquaman 2. Like that's the best part of Aquaman and Aquaman 2 in my opinion is Aquaman
Yeah.
and Orm's story. Didn't love the Black Manta sequence in this movie. Like I said earlier, I kind of just wish they had saved him for Aquaman 2 and made him the main villain of Aquaman 2, which I thought they were gonna do, but that didn't really pan out that way. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a better made film than the second is, which is why it ranks a little higher. And like you said earlier, Connor, like well, you and both Darren said, like it feels more James Wan than Aquaman 2 did. Like you can definitely see like the techniques that he uses if you've seen multiple James Bond movies.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a lot lower for me. Like I actually think before I rewatched it, before Aquaman 2 came out, it would have been my bottom 5, I think. Maybe even bottom 4. Because I used to really not like this film. I used to think it was really boring. But I think, like for me, it's what makes it good isn't the dialogue or the story. Like I think the story and the dialogue are the worst parts about the film. But I think everything else about it is really cool in a way that kind of amplifies it, that makes it a really fun watch.
Sure.
But I get all your criticisms of it and your complaints of it.
Yeah, I still enjoy it enough though. I mean, most of this list for me has been basically kind of been based off rewatch value to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is
Like
fair.
yeah, I would
That's so
rewatch like
valid.
Aquaman more than like above any of the movies I have below it.
Same.
So, yeah. Number 8, I guess. Connor, what's your number 8?
Mine's Flash, and Flash did
Oh,
drop a
wow.
little bit. Flash was this list kind of like moving around a lot. Like Flash was below Wonder Woman 1984. No, it was above. No, yeah, it was below it, but it was like above Suicide Squad, I think, or something like that. But like Suicide Squad's also moved around a bit. But Flash, I don't know. I think enough of the film is good that it's like it's a fun watch. Like there's a lot of bits in this film that I think are really, really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like I think up until I don't know, I want to say up until the Batcave stuff, I think it's a really good film. Like I think the early Michael Keaton stuff is really good. I think
Yeah.
the two Ezras play off of each other really well. I think that like the early stuff with or now to be fair, I think that the very first like sequence with Ben Affleck Batman and Diana
Baby.
and the babies, I think all that's terrible, and which is annoying because I was so happy to see Ben Affleck back as Batman because he's my
Yeah.
favorite Batman, and Diana as well. I was like, oh, it's cool to see Diana again, but I thought everything about that scene fell flat, and it set
Yeah.
off the movie on a really bad tone. But from after that scene on, like once we start to see kind of Barry's like home life, I guess, for the first time in the DCEU, from that point on until like the Batcave stuff when they start going off on their missions, I think the film is really good and it's really strong. And Sasha Calle's Supergirl is my favorite part about the film. Like I know that she comes along much later in the film after that part started done, but once the film gets into the more action oriented stuff, the one part that I really like about the film is Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Like I was in love with the idea of having her kind of being a mainstay of the DC movies going forward and having her as a Supergirl. I think Millie's going to make a great Supergirl. I'm really excited to see what they do with Woman of Tomorrow. But I also think Sasha would have really worked with the kind of Supergirl they seem to be going for with the DCU, like the much more angrier, much more kind of adult-oriented, I guess, version of the character. Like I think she would have worked with that. But I think she was great. And it just, it's once it reaches kind of the Zod stuff, I think it gets into very problematic areas in terms of the look, the CGI, the everything, the scene in the multiverse where we've got George Reeves and Adam West and other versions of characters that have been dead for decades showing up with AI versions with weird looking out. Like, why the hell are they looking through this in the multiverse? Why are none of them not doing anything when they see there's a multiverse collapse coming on? Why are we just, I don't know, I don't get it. It's so weird. It's so weird. It's so weird. And I think that one scene single-handedly ruins the film for a lot of people, which to the point where I honestly cannot comprehend what universe has tons of test screenings over the like they've had, I don't know, they've had what 4 or 5 test screenings over the past few years where probably dozens more, but like out of the main one we've heard of where they've changed the film or changed the ending of the film, and I'm sure that scene was in a lot of the test screenings. I don't understand why that got past so many execs, why so many execs saw that scene and were like, this is perfect, this works great with this version, like let's ship the film like that.
It's also really, like as a DC TV fan, like we saw literally Crisis and freaking Titans do that same exact concept 10 times better. I don't know how Titans did that. Like a show that's not known for it's not known for its super big quality. It was like, you did this way better than the Flash film did. Like, this was so good. Like, I don't know how you pulled it off.
It didn't really feel like that big of a focus of the movie, so I didn't have as much of a problem with it.
Mm-hmm. But that's a problem for me. I felt like it ground the film to a halt. Yeah, I feel like that scene came out of nowhere and just stopped the film dead in its tracks.
I mean, I do think the third act was the weakest part of the movie.
Yeah. It like I felt we were about to get into something really interesting with like our Black Flash and stuff, and it literally felt like I had the like CEOs come out and be like, okay, now let's take a pause. Now let's look over here.
Darren, when we talked about this on your show, we fucking talked about how that was basically Savitar. Like, they literally did Savitar.
Somebody in my cinema freaked out and said, Savitar! They yelled Savitar when he showed up.
Yeah. No, but I actually think if they combined the CW Savitar and Black Flash, it would have, if you, put those two as a piece and you combine what's good about the one and good about the other, that's a fantastic villain. Like, it truly is.
Yeah. Bro, after all that, all the years of waiting for this movie, I could not believe that they didn't do Reverse Flash in any way. I was like, what?
Which I'm really glad they didn't.
I'm not.
So glad. Because now
I have it higher than both of you, and that's something I'm not happy about.
Well, okay, so it was.
It's interesting.
I actually think he may have been in the movie. I think there was something in the
movie.
I think
originally,
because there's a shot in the trailer of Barry sitting there screaming, just absolutely screaming, and that's nowhere in the movie. So I think maybe there's a world where he went back to see what happened with his mom, and it's Thawne, and it was cut out. I think they may have cut it out and be like, we're saving this for our sequel. that we're never
We'll
going to
never
see.
get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this film changed so many times. Like, remember the original version was the
Oh
Rogues?
God.
Like, it was like Captain
Yeah.
Cold, Mirror Master, all that. Then it changed to just
we
being
were
like,
waiting so
like,
long for this movie.
but,
Yeah, it
but at one
changed so
point it
many
was proper
times.
Flashpoint with like
Yeah.
Wonder Woman and Aquaman going to war. Like in terms of like
That would have
Atlantis and
been
Themyscira.
epic.
I really wanted the film where it was the Flash and Cyborg team up movie to take down your Captain Cold.
Yeah,
Like, that sounds sick as hell. I would
think
love
I
that
think the
movie.
main problem with this movie at the end of the day is like it's such a big story. Like you're
Yeah.
adapting
Yeah.
in Flashpoint.
Yeah.
The animated movie is better. I'll say that. I've never
much.
read the
Yeah.
comic, but I'm sure it's better.
the comic
Yeah.
is better. Yeah, both the animated film and the comic are 10 times better.
And
I
it's
would say
crazy
the
that
CW version is better.
it felt like the animated film did so much more in half the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
how?
It's very rushed, but I would even argue that like the CW
Yeah, I think
version was better.
It's better. Yeah. I think the CW
I'd
version
say it's
left
on
more of an
level
impact.
with it.
I would say, I mean, just for the scene where like, who's the villain now, Barry? Who's the villain now? Like,
Who's the villain now?
All right. This is
We also got to replace Diggle's kid.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Rest in peace, Sarah.
Yeah, that's my number 8 anyway.
Is it
Good
my
old
turn
Flash.
then?
Go for it.
All right, Connor. I'm sorry for my number 8. Now I do want to start off by saying I like these next 8. Like, I think these next 8 are just good movies. I think they're all just good.
We're in the, as they would say in sports, the Elite 8, baby.
Yes. My number 8's Man of
Do they say
Steel.
that? Ooh.
My number
Oof.
8's Man of Steel.
Oof.
Now, I want to start off by saying I actually think this is a fantastic movie.
Why do
like,
you
I think
hate Man of Steel?
Why do you hate Henry Cavill as Superman, Darren?
Why do you hate this film?
I actually think it's a fantastic casting as Superman. I think the cast. I think just like early DCEU. I actually would say just the whole thing. Like, their casting is usually really, really good. Like, I think they're usually really good about that. And I think Man of Steel is a very personal thing. Like, if I am making this list based off of like a filmmaking point of view, Man of Steel might be number 1 because I think it's a very well made movie. It's just not a me movie, I don't think. And I actually think I do like Man of Steel the more I've seen it. Like, I think I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. Each time I see it, I do like it more and I do respect it more. When I think of Superman, this is just not my personal Superman. I think Superman makes me feel a way. Like, he makes me feel like, I think Superman, I don't know how to put this. Like, Superman makes me want to be a better person. And I think he makes me believe that the world can be better. And when I finish Man of Steel, I don't feel that. I feel like the world I've jumped into is a little bit darker than a world that I started. Like, I feel like the world is in a less hopeful place than it was when I started the film.
I'm curious, Darren. Sorry to jump in. But
Mhm.
if Batman v Superman went in a different direction than it did, would you view Man of Steel like differently? Like, if Batman v Superman went like in the direction you're saying you want Superman to go.
Sure. And that's the thing. Like, I've always respected the journey. Like, I think they could have done a Spider-Man No Way Home thing where we end this Superman journey and we're like, oh, they were just taking a different direction to get to that hopeful Superman. Like, at the end of Black Adam, I was like, oh, that's Superman. Like, I feel like their hope just entered this room. And again, I'm very like, I think Zack Snyder had a plan. I think he had a full-on vision how to turn our Clark Kent into the version of Superman that we know and love. And I respect that. Again, I fully just like
thing
it's
is, the Superman you're describing, like they say, is the Superman we had between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. That's what kind of irks me about the whole thing.
But like, I didn't feel
is that we never saw that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like, again, like, I always can respect when, just like your Batman v Superman, like, they went in a different direction with these characters, and I can respect them trying something new. I fully can. I get it. It's just not for me personally. But again, I think how they write certain characters are very well. I'm someone, and I know this is a big topic, I'm not a big fan of what they did with your Jonathan. I think kind of having a case, and Connor, you can disagree with this if you want. Like, maybe I just don't see this point of view. I don't like the idea of Jonathan being like, don't save these people. Like, don't save someone if they're in trouble. There's probably more to that.
It's just for himself he's doing that. He's like,
Yeah,
He's
sure.
like, save other people. Don't save me right now because you're going to
Sure.
reveal you're gonna show these people who you are and what you can do.
Sure.
Don't do
But
that for me. Like you can
but
do it
like
for
there's
other
the
things,
like
but don't do that for me.
sure, but like I'm talking more about the like school kids on the bus where it's like, I don't know, Clark, I don't know if you should be doing that. Again, I haven't seen it nearly as much as you, so maybe
Yeah.
I'm missing like a whole plot
Well,
point
the thing
that
is, Smallville does the same thing. For like a lot of early Smallville,
that's
Jonathan
fair.
Kent
That's fair.
is like Clark. You know what? Clark comes in really happy into the house a lot and is like, "Oh, I saved the
Sure.
person." And Jonathan's like, "And did anybody see you do that?" It's like
Yeah.
that's a lot of early Smallville.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. And you know, like maybe it's just a point where like if we could have seen that journey in real time, then maybe it would have been better for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And
for
like
sure.
again, like I 100% see where they were going with like the tornado scene. I won't garp on that scene because people have done that over and over and over again. I did think it was a little stupid, but like I 100% get the vision that they were going with.
Yeah.
And again, like I think again, Man of Steel, great movie. It's just not one of my favorites, and I'm excited to see. I also think it did a lot of. This is more like Batman v Superman, maybe, but I also think it did a lot of damage to the Superman vision, like what people think of Superman. I do think it did quite a bit of damage. If you like this version of Superman or not, it did change who Superman is to a lot of people, and I don't fully love that, but I'll be very curious to hear kind of your thoughts on it because I know you guys like this movie much more than I do, and I love that. Like people put this as their number one. Like I 100% understand. So that's my number 8.
I definitely think this film was the public perception of Superman for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Superman and Lois, it's a great show. It's
Yeah.
not exactly a popular show. Like
Yeah.
not a lot of people watch it.
No.
Superman Returns was almost 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Smallville ended 15 years ago, and at this point, Smallville, like Smallville never exactly like I knew people in secondary school, so like this was about 10 years ago. I knew people who had like when I was rewatching Smallville like right after it ended, and I was like talking to people about Smallville, and like they knew what Smallville was, they knew the TV show, they'd seen episodes of it, they had no idea it was a Superman thing. Like that's like Smallville was a popular show. It didn't exactly get put out there a lot as a Superman show. It was, a Clark Kent show or a show with superpowers.
Yeah.
Bro,
Man
I
of Steel
didn't
was the
know
one like Superman thing.
I didn't know that about Arrow because like I knew about the show Arrow, but I wasn't aware that it was a Green Arrow show.
Yeah, I got a
Sure.
lot of the
Someone
same
had
things
told
from
me.
people.
I was like, wait, that's
It's a
a Green
Robin Hood
Arrow show?
show.
I'm definitely gonna watch
Yeah.
it now. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
start until like
Yeah.
late season 2 is when I got into Arrow.
Yeah, which is valid. Like these shows where they're trying to show like a different version of these characters, or they're not kind of banking on the main name of the character. But I think for Smallville they weren't allowed to call it Superman. But like I think like the original name for Smallville would have been like the early years of Superman or something like that, and they were told like no way.
I don't know if
but I
that's
think-
good or not because like for people like me who like have always grown up with this type of stuff and like just know Green Arrow, like Green Arrow, like I'm not gonna recognize that. Like I'll
No,
put it
absolutely.
together that it's a Green Arrow show, but like for
I think for them
casual
it was like,
viewers, I don't know.
This was an era with The Dark Knight Rises and with Man of Steel. Like this was an era where you were taking names of characters.
I feel
like
like
they're more their
Superman and
sons.
Batman are just characters on that level. You can do that though, because like
Yeah.
people know their nicknames.
Yeah.
We were also talking prior to us recording, but like I watched Man of Steel when I was in like season 4 of Smallville, and those two shows are very different. And I
They're
think
very different. Yeah.
it really set a precedence to me. If you like Smallville or not, it set a precedence of what Superman is, and the tone that I do love from Superman. And I think that really hurt me. Was like, this is fucking stupid. I don't wanna watch this gritty Superman, So, and again, I've grown a lot since then. Like I've grown on this movie a lot, and I totally understand why people love it so much because it is good.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that like
like Superman the animated series Justice League kind of set the precedent of who Superman is to me.
That's fair.
But I don't necessarily agree with some of what you're saying. So we'll get more into that later.
But I think like for Man of Steel and the early DCU, like the Snyder films, this is a completely fair reason for people to dislike this stuff. But I think like the general idea that Snyder's going for is that this isn't a bright and colorful comic book universe. Like you're not in the DC universe here. You're in the real world, and this is our world if Superman and Batman existed. Like they wouldn't be these godlike superpower things that everybody
Yeah.
loves, that people like, flock to and are super happy, and they're all bright and colorful, which it's completely understandable that people don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Like, they want to see a proper DC universe. But then the comparison is like the MCU, it's a comic book universe. The
Yeah.
DCEU, it's our world if comic book characters were brought into it. Now, obviously that changed, like as soon as, the Justice version of Justice League came out,
Yeah.
it was pretty clear they were not going in the Snyder direction anymore. But I think originally, like early on, it's supposed to be like the real world, which I completely understand why people don't like that. Like it's not for most people.
Yeah, and also like if Man of Steel came out now and James Gunn said, "Okay, this is an Elseworld story of an alternate Superman," I think I'd maybe love it. I think I might love if it's this kind of Elseworld story where DC characters are slightly darker, or you have a Batman who may kill, and how does a darker Superman deal with a Batman who kills? Like, that's a great Elseworld story. I'd love to see that. I just think it's how they framed these movies, and again, like I 100% agree. I can really respect the vision here. I really can, of someone who wants to do something different with these characters who've been around for like what 80 some years now, right? Like I get that. I really do. It's just a thing that I just don't think is for me. And I think that's personally okay. Like I don't think every version of all these characters are supposed to be for us. Like there should be one for each person, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, my number 8 we can kind of flow into it from Man of Steel. It's not Man of Steel, but it is Batman v Superman.
Why you guys
Dawn of
haters?
Justice.
Why you guys haters? Why you guys hating?
Look, Connor, yeah, you're gonna call me a hater and you're gonna call me
Yeah, you're
biased
a
because
hater. You're a
guess
hater and
what?
you're biased.
Guess what my favorite part of this movie is? It's
Lex
Batman.
Luthor, baby.
It's Batman. Batman's
I mean,
the best part of this
I'm
movie.
like, not to stab in it real quick, but my favorite part of Batman v Superman isn't Superman. It's also Batman.
Batman is the only thing I don't like about Batman in this movie is that he's branding people.
Yeah,
It's
no, that's
just
a bit
the
much.
unfamiliarity with it, I guess, because I'm not accustomed to Batman ever branding people in anything. I don't know of it having any precedence in comics and previous movies or shows or anything like that. Like the killing, I think Nolan is the cause of that whole debate, even though he did kill in the Dark Knight trilogy, so I don't even understand it on
Yeah.
that level. But a big part of his character in that trilogy was, oh, I'm Batman, I don't kill. So the moment he starts killing people in BBS, people start freaking the fuck out.
Yeah,
As the Joker would say, everyone loses their mind.
Everyone will lose their mind.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either, to be fair.
So my Batman does not kill, but that doesn't irk me that he does kill because I'm used, like I've seen Batmans that kill before.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
really bother me because it's not like it's something new to his character or anything. It's not like it hasn't happened in the past. It's not like Zack Snyder is disrespecting Batman as a character or anything by doing that. And also, he's trying to tell the story of a Batman that's lost his way, much like they do in The Dark
Yeah,
Knight Rises.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I understand it on that level. I completely do. And that's why I think Batman is the best part of this movie. I also think Wonder Woman's a pretty good part of this movie for what she's in.
Yeah.
I don't like the villains at all. I don't fucking like Doomsday. He sucks.
Yeah.
He looks ugly as fuck. I just don't like him.
It's just a big kryptonite, like, blob, pretty much.
Jesse Eisenberg is like my least favorite Lex Luthor ever. I don't like him at all. I don't like the villains in this movie, bro. Batman v Superman, I like the fight. It makes no sense why they ever fight though, because Superman's like, "Yo, Bruce, listen to me." It's like, Clark, just start telling him what he needs to know, and maybe he'll be like, "Oh."
And Bruce is just like, "Breathe it in, Clark." Clark's like, what the fuck are you doing?
No, cinematically though, this movie is awesome. Honestly, like action wise, great.
No, it is.
Visually,
it's a really cool film.
I mean, other than Doomsday, I think Doomsday's ugly as shit. But most other things, I think some of the third act kind of can be a mess. It's just a bunch of. It's a problem with a lot of comic book movies, to be honest. They just put too much CG in it for no reason, just because they have the money to. And it's like that's not needed. But when Wonder Woman shows up, it's pretty badass. Even though the line of Batman, like when Superman goes, "Is she with you?" and Batman's like, "I thought she was with you." Isn't that what he said? I'm like, Batman, she's obviously with you. You are the only one that has interacted with this woman. And the whole Justice League setup,
Okay.
Look, it's been done in other things. I have seen this in something that is not Batman v Superman, where like
Yeah.
the Justice League is just revealed on like this computer thing, and it
Yeah.
just shows their emblem and the little file that reveals like them and their superhero identity. I'm like, okay, that's like the laziest way ever to set up the Justice League.
I think
And I
like
feel like things like that, aside from the nightmare sequence, I really enjoy the nightmare sequence. Aside from that, things like that kind of carry this movie down for me. Other than like the villains kind of do, but also just the things that are trying to set up things like in the future for no reason, like trying to rush the things to catch up with Marvel because they're not thinking right way or the smart way. That's what frustrates me about this movie. Like if this movie was more contained and just focused solely on Batman versus Superman and like setting up the Trinity of DC opposed to the entire Justice League, like just having
yeah,
Wonder Woman in there, I think it would have been so much better.
I
That's just
agree.
me though.
I definitely think if you take out the Doomsday stuff and Superman doesn't die and it is just a movie about these three characters kind of meeting for the first time, I think it's much better. Like I think if you just have maybe Lex as the villain and he builds like a giant mech suit or something, and like I think it does become a better movie.
I don't. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm going to wait until I get to it on my list. But
Yeah.
the one thing I am going to just defend about it
Okay.
is the one thing that I see, like it's the main complaint I see about the film all the time, and it's in relation to Batman killing, and the point of it, like it, Brayden, you pretty much touched on it, where it's like it's supposed to be a Batman
I'm
who
a
lost today,
Batman
like
fan
that's why,
for
like
everyone.
yeah, you're okay with it because you understand it, but I feel like a lot of people, they use it as the main reason to throw stuff at the film. It's like that he kills.
Yeah.
But, like that's the point. Like you're not supposed to be on board with it. You're supposed to be like, this is wrong. Like he should not be doing this. Like this is not the kind
You're
of
supposed to
Batman
want
that
Batman to reform, so to speak.
exactly, yeah, which
Yeah.
is what he starts on at the end of the film and what he continues on in Justice League.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I thought
there's a
Batman's
reason
story
why
in
he's
it
killing.
was great. I thought it was great.
Yeah, like it's the one kind of storyline that continues throughout the whole film and pretty much reaches a change at the end of the film. Like,
Yeah.
Superman teaches Batman that no, he shouldn't be killing, and so now he's trying to do a better way going forward. And like I feel like people kind of misunderstand that when they see the film, when they're like, "Oh, Batman shouldn't be killing." Like
That's
Snyder's
why
not
I very
glorifying
much
Batman
feel
killing.
like having maybe a solo Batman movie where he's not doing that stuff maybe
Yeah,
would have benefited, and also having a
Yeah.
Man of Steel 2 where we saw that Superman they described, like the
yeah,
people were worshipping, and he got a statue built and
Yeah.
all that. We don't see that in this movie. And that's what hurts it for me. Like I want to see that Superman. I want to see Superman be that hopeful beacon to the world. And like I
Yeah.
don't want to see like I understand the deconstruction of Superman to a degree. Like I definitely understand it in Man of Steel, which is why I prefer Man of Steel over Batman v Superman. I feel like Batman v Superman would have definitely benefited from like a movie of that Superman, that version of Superman that they described though.
Yeah. 100%.
yeah.
Like there's no scene in proving that Bruce is wrong. Like it's just kind of like, yeah, he's
Yeah,
kind of got a
exactly.
point.
They like
Like
Batman feels like the hero of the movie, even though he's murking
yeah.
dudes left and right.
It's like, yeah, he could take down a building right now, but it's like, but he wouldn't, because that's not who Clark is, and you never see that.
Yeah, we'll hear Connor's more in-depth thoughts later.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear them, but
Okay.
yeah, that was my number 8.
3
Connor,
hours
what's
from
your
now.
what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Aquaman. The first one. So I don't really have like too much to say on it because we already kind of talked about it a fair bit earlier on. But yeah, I think it's like the story and the dialogue isn't what I like about the film. It's the look of it. It's the feel of it. It's the directors of like I feel like writing wise, it's not the strongest of the films in this list. Nowhere close. But in terms of how it's made and how it's directed, I think it is really strong. Like it's unique. Like it works well. There's a feeling that they want the film to be fun, that they want the film to be, I don't really know how to describe, but there's like, they know what the film is going in and they made that, which I feel like is something they didn't do super strong with Aquaman 2, where they didn't fully know what they wanted it to be, and it feels like with Aquaman 2, they changed a lot in production, whereas with Aquaman 1, it feels like they kind of had a vision the whole time and they pretty much nailed that vision. Like, even if the writing isn't the strongest, the film itself, it ended up being what they wanted it to be. But I also just think the final fight between Aquaman and Ocean Master is great. Like in the rain with the ocean all around them is just fantastic. Just the visuals and fights in general in the film, they nail.
Yep, I talked about this one earlier. Visually, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
you've
my
yet to talk about it.
I know. Is it up next? It is not, because my next one
Oh.
is Birds of Prey.
Oh, boy.
Hey, number 7 is
boy.
Birds of Prey. That's also my number 7, Darren. So I guess we
Hey,
can
we
talk
talk
about
about
it
the
at the
same
same time.
Love
I'll jump
that.
in here
Yeah.
with
Just
you.
go to talk over each other there.
No, we'll have
Um,
a civilized conversation.
Screw you. No, it's kidding. No. No, I like Birds of Prey. I really do. This was my second DCEU movie in a theater. Margot Robbie, like I said earlier on, I love her journey as Harley Quinn, and I think each film in that journey, starting with the Suicide Squad, going into this one, was very fun to me. And I the Harley Quinn show I think came out around the same time as well, and they kind of were telling a similar story about Harley Quinn overcoming the Joker, and I think that's one of the most interesting things about the character is seeing her at such a dark place and get out of that situation. Now, I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more. I think that itself could have been a very interesting movie, seeing her escape that. But I think Margot Robbie is so much fun in this movie. I think it's such a, like we said earlier, it's a very artsy movie. Like, it feels like they were just making a film. Like, it didn't even, like, at times, it didn't even feel like a comic book movie. Definitely, I wouldn't say it's a superhero movie, right? I'd say it's a movie about these very lost characters. And I think you could have, again, there's things they could have done better. You are definitely right about the side characters. I don't think they always work. Definitely introducing a lot of these guys for their first film when you don't care about some of them. I've heard a lot of criticisms about the Cassandra Cain stuff and how she just doesn't work here. And I understand that.
She's my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, and I completely understand that, and it's very clear they just needed a kid character there for Harley to bounce off of, and maybe she shouldn't have been that character, and I agree. I love our villain here. I think the villain is
It's
really
very Deadpool 3 in that way. How Deadpool and like Russell were always bouncing off one another.
Yeah, sure. I love our villain here. I think they're really good. I actually think they're one of the better ones inside the DCEU. I just wish they didn't kill him off at the end.
Oh, I hate the way they kill him off, bro. Love everything else. Love his
They should have came
performance.
back. Yeah, like
Ewan
like
McGregor
blowing off the
as
bridge,
Black
isn't
Mask, baby.
so good. It was such a good performance. I love the fight scenes as well. Like, it really felt like probably they're like skating ring fight scene is probably one of my favorite fight scenes inside the DCEU. Ultimately, I do really love just how creative it is. Like, I love the opening like sandwich bit where she loves her sandwich so much that she drops it on the ground, and it's like that's so Harley Quinn of them. And I just think this is a fun movie. And I think this is going to be a movie in like 3 or 4 years. People are going to start watching and be like, wait, why didn't anyone talk about this film? This is actually a good like DCEU movie. And I think it's the one in this whole thing that like a lot of people just don't even know it came out. Like, a lot of people don't even know it's a thing. Like, I hear no one talk about this movie. So I hope it gets that soon.
I don't know, man. Despite what you think of the movie, if you like it, if you love it, if you hate it,
Yeah.
It's like a very unique movie. It feels like a
It is,
very unique
yeah.
It is
movie to
unique,
me.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I kind of dig about it.
Same.
Like, Harley's not even my favorite character in the movie. Like I said earlier, Black Mask and Huntress are my favorite characters. I wish Huntress was utilized a bit more because she's not in very much of the movie, but what she is in is so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the most memorable action scene to me is always the police sequence where like Harley does a bunch of coke and it's just going
Yeah.
ham. I don't know why. Maybe it's because that was like such a prominent part of the trailers is why I remember it so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Other than like Cassandra Cain, which was a character that kind of annoyed me, I had a pretty fun time with this movie. I thought most of the action was good. Most of the
It's a fun
story
movie.
beats were pretty good. Like, I think this is Margot's best outing as Harley. I don't know
I
if
agree,
that's
yeah.
like a hot take or not, but I think she's better in this than she
No.
is in either Suicide Squad movie.
Suicide Squad we will talk about soon, I think, but like I love that movie. I do think she's one of the weakest parts of that movie, not because of her, just because she didn't have a lot to do.
I was about
in
to say
that
she's not really the main character in that
Yeah.
movie.
Which I actually think works for her. Like, I think Harley's a character that works really
She didn't
well
need to
in,
be
like,
the main character.
Teaspoons, where it's like she is a accent to a movie. As much as I did like her here, I think she works as like a side character in another project, and I think James Gunn knows that. So she's like, yeah, she doesn't need to be the main character here.
All right, well, that was Darren and I's number 7. Connor has
Seven times.
already
I
talked
didn't say a
about
lot
it.
because I already talked about it. I was like, you know what? I said all I need to say on that film.
So Connor's number 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the top. What did not make your top 5?
I don't know if this is gonna get attacked or not. Wonder
Oh.
Woman, the first one.
Oh,
I mean, I like it.
Whoa,
I think it's
whoa,
really
whoa, whoa, whoa! No, continue.
get him out of here!
cool. Carry me out of here. No, I think it's great. Like, I think setting it in World War One was a really cool choice, but
Yeah.
I understand that the out of universe reason is because they wanted to, people were already making the comparisons that it was Captain America, the first Avenger, but with Wonder
Yeah.
Woman, and they wanted to be like, all right, well, Captain America did World War Two, we have to do World War One. But it made for a very visually interesting film because World War One was such a different kind of conflict. So it let them do a lot of interesting and unique things that Captain America: The First Avenger didn't do, like trenches and stuff like that. Like that whole trench scene in No Man's Land is fantastic. It's one of the most I would honestly say that might be the most iconic scene of the DCEU.
I
It's
agree.
a scene that you see used in like all the promotion for these films. It's the one Wonder Woman scene that always gets used in promotion for everything, where she's blocking the bullets with her bracelets.
Just walking in slow mo, bro. She looks so badass.
Yeah,
That's
no,
why.
it's great, and the music as well is fantastic. Like
They keep using again and again and again.
yeah. No, I don't think they used it for that scene, did they? I think it was like
Didn't they?
the slower version of it for that scene rather than the main.
Okay.
I mean, I might be wrong on that, but no, I really like the first film. I think it's like they nailed a lot of the characters, like Etta Candy, Steve Trevor. They were all really good characters in that film. Themyscira was a really cool location. Like having the guns versus bow and arrows fight on that island was great. And I think my one like conflict with the film, I guess, is that the villain in Ares isn't the greatest. How they utilized him in the last act, like the third act, is kind of a problem in a lot of the DCEU films, and I feel like it was a problem here. Like it's the one thing that doesn't land super great with the film. I also don't think that how Wonder Woman talks at the very end of Batman v Superman jives with what Wonder Woman and what Wonder Woman 1984 did. Like she walked away from mankind a certain amount of years ago. Wonder Woman does show that she dealt with bad stuff in the war, but she didn't walk away from mankind. Like she's still there. She's still present all the way through the next few decades of Earth or of mankind. So I don't know why at the end of Batman v Superman she walked away. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's a really well put together film. It's a really well made film. I feel like at this point, we had Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and then Wonder Woman, which were all completely different films. Like, it felt like a really cool era for the franchise.
Yeah. And again, like, say what you want about like this era of DC, and like I've said, hey, they're not really for me, but they were very like well made films. Like they were putting out good content. If you think they're like if they're up your alley or not, like they were making good movies.
Yeah,
like, they really were.
I agree.
It's my
Yeah, it is your turn. It is your turn. What's your number 6? What's just outside your top 5, Darren?
Just outside, and it pains me that it didn't quite make my top 5. And I think
it's gonna be Batman v Superman. He has it twice on his list.
Has it twice. He has the Ultimate Edition.
I think 6. I think 3, 4, 5, and 6 can all really be flipped around. Like I think they could really be placed in anywhere. I love all of these movies. And honestly, I may at some point be like, let's switch these two. I don't know. It is Aquaman though. I love Aquaman. This was really the start of my like theater experience. Really, like this was one of the first superhero movies I ever saw in a theater. That was the point I was starting to have my own money and I could like go to see a movie, without anyone else, and it was a real escape for me. And Aquaman was the first of its kind where I could be like, oh yeah, this is like my place. And I think it was such a great film to do because I do think it's such a great theater experience. Like I think it is gorgeous to see on the big screen. People make fun of the explosions, but like I think having this be one of my first like real like theater films be like the most popcorn flick movie there is was a special experience. Like all the explosions and the surround sound and the clashing of the weapons, and I think all of the sea stuff is brilliant. I love Jason as Aquaman. I think he's such a fun I think he's such a different take on the character that we're used to, but I think a good one. I think it out of characters kind of changing from what they typically are. I think Jason as Aquaman was something that the Aquaman character really needed, and hopefully at some point we can go back to a more classic Aquaman. But I think the DCU needed someone like Aquaman. I think it's a really fun popcorn flick. love story. And there's issues with it. I won't go too much into it because I know we already talked about it a lot. But there are like, you go and look at some acting choices. It's like, oh yeah, that was kind of rough. Like you have the whole thing where they have explosions like every 12 minutes or so. It'd be like, yep, an action scene starting now. There's all these things, but also still that suit up scene is so good. That Aquaman suit, I think, is one of the best live action comic book suits we have ever gotten. Translation from the comics to the live action, I think is brilliant. I love this movie. It doesn't quite tap my top 5, but it's, again, these could all kind of be switched around. All right, Brayden, you're up next.
Yeah. So, if my calculations are correct, we all have 4 of the same DCEU movies in the top 5 because my number 6
No,
is The
Darren,
Flash.
Darren hates Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
My number 6 is The Flash. I have it higher than both of you. Look, the best part of this movie, as much as people may hate me for saying it, is The Flash, and that's what I like the most about this movie. Ezra Miller, as much as you may dislike them as a person, they are incredible in this movie, I feel. They handle the dual performance role so well. That's not an easy thing to do. I think they give like a performance of the lifetime. It's a shame the behind the scenes stuff that has happened, and yeah, the fallout of all that, all the stuff they're going through personally. That sucks. Michael Keaton as Batman. I wish we had gotten a bit more. I know that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the Batman fan saying, "Oh, I wish we had more Batman." But I mean, I was hoping for more of a Michael Keaton's, big screen return.
Three of them in the film.
Ben Affleck. I loved his talk with Barry at the beginning of the movie, like after the whole chase sequence with Batman, Flash, and Wonder Woman, that whole interaction. I like the conversation between Bruce and Barry before Barry goes back and saves his mom, creates Flashpoint. Yeah, I don't know what if it ultimately comes down to or not is I did enjoy what we got of Supergirl in this movie. I don't think Supergirl and Batman really added much to this movie. And I don't know if it ultimately comes down to like they're just better versions of the story out there is why I don't like enjoy it more. Because I don't care about all the drama. I just look at the movie as a movie, and I like it. I like it enough. I think Flash is the best character, and that's what I was looking for the most. I think the stuff with Barry and his mother is extremely emotional. Maybe some of the most emotional stuff you get in the DCEU. Some sad stuff.
Yeah, and I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it.
I do like. I have not rewatched it because of like everyone dogging on this thing, and I'm scared that I'm not gonna like it. I'm not trying to let those thoughts like get to me. I don't want them to interfere in like my viewing of the movie. So
sure,
that happens to me with a lot of comic book films, where like I first see them and then I go back and watch them for the second time, and I'm like, this is nowhere near how I felt when I came out of the cinema. Like I loved Doctor Strange
it's
too.
Weird because that happens with a lot of.
Rewatch it.
I don't know if it's just like the cinema conundrum, but that happened with me a lot with the live action movies too. But like with animated movies, like the animated DC movies, anytime I rewatch those, half the time I think they're better than I did when I first watched them. I'm like, what is going on, dude?
Yeah. Got your expectations in check, I guess, for the second time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I guess.
Right,
that was my number 6. So we're into the top 5 now.
We're in the big ones now.
5.
Big leagues.
All right, mine is The Suicide Squad, not the 2016 version. Sorry, what I meant to say was it is the 2016 version is what I'm talking about right now.
Starring Will Smith, yes.
Starring Will Smith. No, I like this film a lot. I think it's got that James Gunn flair to it, while still being a little bit more. I don't know. It has some of the stuff I don't like about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like one of my biggest problems with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is that film spends way too much time on certain jokes. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I feel like are pretty bang, bang, bang in terms of getting a joke out and then not really revisiting it too much. It's like, if the joke lands, then perfect. The problem with staying on certain jokes too long is if they don't land, then it feels like the film drags to a halt while the characters keep revisiting certain jokes. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had this problem with me, where it's like certain jokes didn't land at all, and that film liked to revisit its jokes a lot. Suicide Squad had some of those problems for me, where I felt like sometimes they'd stop to do a joke, the joke wouldn't really land, but then the film would keep revisiting that same joke. But in other times, jokes would land and it'd be great. The characters, I think, are fantastic. I think it's a much stronger lineup of a Suicide Squad than the first film. The only character that I kind of think would work that wasn't already brought over would have been Deadshot. So like, I think, you brought in Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang. They were the two strongest members, along with Deadshot from the original team, in my opinion, along with Diablo as well. But I feel like he probably would have been number 4 out of those.
Yeah.
And then bringing in like Bloodsport and Ratcatcher and stuff like that as well really works to make this a really strong team. Rick Flag is so much better in this film than he is in the first one.
Gosh, yeah.
Like, there's so much
Dude,
more
he is
personality
so
to
much
him.
better.
So much more character to him. It's like night and day between the two films. I appreciate this film was able to kind of launch, I guess, Peacemaker, because a lot of the elements for Peacemaker start in this film, like in terms of the side cast and everything like that. This is a good film. It's a strong story. Starro was a really interesting villain to have. Like they made it work really well. Yeah, I like the film. It's a good one.
It's insane to me that the first big screen film, and maybe the only, who knows if we're going to get Starro ever again, but just insane to me
Yeah.
that it was in a Suicide Squad movie,
Yeah,
not a
it's
Justice
wild.
League movie.
And that
He was
just,
the first Justice League villain.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm surprised it wasn't a Justice League movie.
Yeah, I mean, I might talk about
Of,
this
like,
more
some kind.
when we get to my part, but like the like character choices and the villain choices in this movie make me so excited for what James Gunn's going to do, because he'll just pick the most like niche character and make them something special. Like Starro would never
Dude,
work.
James Gunn is such a comic nerd. That's what makes me so excited about it all.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been that trend on like TikTok going around. I don't know if you guys have seen. I doubt you have seen it, but like, there's a compilation of the interviews from the last 7 or so like MCU projects, and it's all of them saying, "We didn't read the comics. Oh, we don't know the source material." And it's like, but why? Why would you hire them if they know nothing of the comics? Like, I can somewhat understand if you want someone to have a unbiased thing, but like, they should at least have some sort of history with these characters before you're directing these characters. And I think that's what James Gunn knows that. Like, literally, as when the big announcement had come out, he's like, "These are the comics that I'm inspired by. You should go read them prior to these coming out." Like, that's amazing. Like, he understands that, and I love that for him. All right, so my number 5, right?
Yep.
Okay. This is another one that I think could go either up or down if I've seen it a second time. I saw it once when it first came out, and I liked it, and I don't even feel like I even have that much thoughts on the film, but that's Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked this film a lot. I had a really good time with this film. Now, it's no secret, and I had said a bunch before, I wasn't on the, restore the Snyderverse train. I wasn't on the release the Snyder Cut thing, and I had actually said I'd prefer if you didn't, because I think at that point, going backwards, I thought was the worst thing they could do. I wanted to go forward and find a way to go forward with this franchise instead of going backwards to what didn't work. But with that being said, I did really love this movie. I think in almost every sense of the way, it took a film that I didn't really like and made me like it. And there was a hype. There was an event factor to it, where it felt like, no matter your opinions on Man of Steel and Batman v Superman or Justice League, it felt like all the DC fans were tuning into this. It did feel like this event. And it did feel like a thing where, you were wronged by the system, and now that same system is kind of giving in and letting you have this win. And again, I think him getting his full vision is an absolute dub. It's an absolute win. And I think just the way they've written the characters, the way they're put on screen, is very, very good. Now, I do think it's a bit long. I do think 4 hours, 4 hours, right? It's 4?
Yeah, it's 4 hours, 3 minutes, 4 hours, 4 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
It's probably 3 hours, 40 minutes, minus the credits.
I definitely think that's a bit long, and I think it's smart how they kind of split it up.
Hey man, go watch Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, okay?
Yeah.
The extended version. The extended version. Yeah. It's pretty good. I've seen it.
I wouldn't do that.
It's crazy to me that I've only seen the extended versions of those movies. I've never seen the theatrical versions, and I'll probably.
I've always seen the actual versions once. I've seen the extended version every other time.
I've never seen.
Yeah, I probably won't watch the theatrical versions because I feel like probably everything in those is in the extended versions, right?
Extended is better.
I really need to watch literally any version. I need to watch any. But no, I really enjoyed this film, and by the end, I think that's the thing that pissed me off was kind of this bit of now you've given me this, but now I can't have more. The thing that really bothered me. It's okay, if you're doing this, commit to it and continue this version out. But it's okay, here's this. Now we're never touching any of it ever again. And I think I would honestly argue, I think releasing this movie, as much as I did like it, was one of the worst things DC could have ever have done, because this lit a fire upon so many people, even people who didn't love these movies. They like me. I was like, yeah, do more of these. Bring on more of this storyline. I would like to see how you finish off this story that you set up. But it's still good. I had a great time. It's not in my top 4, but great movie.
I really liked this league. I don't think it was a mistake to release it, because it was one of the highest performing things on HBO Max. When they released it, like it brought numbers in for them in a way that nothing prior to that had, nothing since had. So like there was a demand for the film, and like it did well for them for the period when I'm obviously in the long run it didn't, because they're leeching money like crazy. But I also like people who weren't really into DC stuff were coming up to me, like who I knew in real life, from like asking me about Justice League, and were like, oh, I'm watching the Zack Snyder Justice League this weekend and stuff like that. So like the film was popular in a way a lot of DC films to that point hadn't really been in a couple of years. But I do agree that it started something that was sort of dying down to that point. Like there was a dip in people asking for the Snyder Cut, because it felt like, while maybe it does or does not exist at that point, because so many people were saying it never existed, that I think at that point, you know, if they'd stayed silent, we would be at a point now where people aren't talking about a Zack Snyder universe. People would have just moved on by now, but releasing the film vindicated a lot of people who were saying that there was more to the story.
Yeah.
It's
And also,
insane how many parallels there are to like movie fandom and like WWE, like, because I'm like a wrestling fan, and like that's some shit that like just went down with The Rock and like another wrestler, because he like took a spot in a match because he's The Rock, and fucking fans went berserk.
Yeah. And I think I meant more so, like, not on a financial point of view, but more so, like, on a branding point of view. Like, the brand of DC, I think, was one of the worst things they could have done. And when this was announced, in my mind, and I still kind of think like that, like, I think they were, like, rewarding bad behavior. Like, the toxic Snyder fans, because that's not you, Connor, I know, but, like, the
Hey, look, I like
toxic-
to send angry messages to everybody who doesn't like the Zack Snyder stuff.
Yeah, but like I felt like there was such toxicity that were the people that were trying to push for this movie, and that told them, hey, if you keep doing this, you will get what you want. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're in a situation now where, you know, David Cornsweet can come on and be Superman, and they'll call him the worst names possible. The Rachel, especially Rachel, has been getting some of the worst of it. Some of the things I've seen people say about her, it's heartbroken.
Which is wild, because Amy Adams is one of the things about the Zack Snyder films that I don't love. I think is Lois Lane.
Oh, people need to get over it and move on. Look, we're on to another thing, okay?
Yeah, I'm so excited to move forward and hopefully leave some of those guys behind. Like they have their Rebel Moon now. Stay over there, please. Stay over there with your Zack Snyder.
But like, the thing is, as well, it's like I love these films. Like, I mean, I've got 4 films still to talk about on the top on the 16 DCU films, and I haven't talked about any Zack Snyder film yet, because all of them are in my top 4. Like, I love these films, but the Zack Snyder fan base, like, I know there's some nice ones out there. There's people who are fine. For the most part, though, is the most toxic, dangerous fandom on the internet. Like, it's ridiculous how serious and to a dangerous extent a lot of people take their love for these films, and it's pretty obvious a lot of the time that these people don't care about DC, they care about Zack Snyder. That
Look,
they want to see Snyder films, not DC films.
I still have my top 5 to talk about, and I haven't talked about 2 of Snyder's films, and even outside of these DCU films, there are some Snyder films like I really enjoy. Watchmen, Dawn of the Dead. I love both those movies. I think Zack Snyder is an incredible filmmaker, but some people like, dude, take it too far, and that's not just like
absolutely.
People want to like just direct it towards Snyder like fans a lot of the time, but like that's just the case with a lot of people that are to the degree that Zack Snyder are. There's just some people that take shit too far.
Yeah.
But well, my number 5 is not a Zack Snyder movie. It's our top 5 might, even though we got 4 of the same movies, I guess, or it might be quite in a quite different order, because my number 5 is Shazam.
Oh no.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's great. It's a good time. It's full of heart. I love like all the family stuff. I love all the non-Shazam stuff, but I like the Shazam stuff too. Even him like learning how to use his powers. I think kind of much like Shazam 2, Freddy is like the heart of this movie. Like if you throw Freddy out of this movie, I don't think I care about it as much because Freddy is like very much Billy's anchor, and without him, his character wouldn't really progress that much. But just the entire like adopted family, it feels like they get more to do than they do in Shazam 2, or like what they get to do in Shazam 2 is just as like their superhero alter ego. You don't really get to see as much of them as like their
Family.
civilian
Sure.
identity, their like human self, so to speak. And that's like the best moments in this movie, and also the most heartbreaking moments in this movie, like when Billy visits his mother and that whole story about how she just gave him up,
Yeah,
basically.
it's heartbroken. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like the number one villain of the DCEU. What a bitch, man. Yeah, but I don't know. They do a lot in this movie because there's a whole falling out
Yeah.
with Billy and Freddy too, and them coming back together, and everything to
It's
do
a
with
beefy film.
Savannah. Like Savannah's got his whole family arc. I enjoy the horror elements. I've heard people throw criticisms at it for like being unbalanced tonally, like oh, it's a horror
Yeah.
film at one point, and then it's just this family friendly movie. It's like shut up, man. Have you ever like looked at a DC comic before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just get
no, I agree.
over it, man. It's not even that hardcore either. Like it's like family friendly horror. Even the horror elements aren't that like spooky. Like kids aren't gonna be that freaked out over it. Get over it.
No.
Yeah, no,
All
it's
right.
a really enjoyable movie, and like you can count it as a Christmas movie, right? It's set around Christmas time, so it's kind
Yeah, I
of
normally do count it as a Christmas film.
yeah. It's one of the movies I'll watch. I won't like do every Christmas like I do with Batman Returns, but I'll do like every other Christmas or something with this
Yeah,
movie. Like it gives me an excuse to revisit this movie, and this movie's just good to begin with. So I like
yeah, it
that
is.
I just have that excuse to revisit it.
No, I really like Shazam. Well, I'll talk about it when I get to it. But yeah, I think it's a really good film.
Yeah. Well,
I do
we're
my
to
number four.
your number four, Connor.
Alrighty. My first Zack Snyder film on the list, Man of Steel.
Oh,
Um,
hey, let me just cut in front of Darren here because my number four is also Man of Steel.
okay. So
Oh,
we could talk about, we could do a little back and forth here.
Yeah,
I'll
No,
take over.
Darren
I love
Darren can come in
Man
if
of
he
Steel.
wants to. I like
I
Man
do
of
love this
Steel.
film.
Look, I've you know this about me. I have not seen the original Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Yeah, and it's shocking.
I've only
You
seen
need
Man
to.
of Steel and yeah, Superman Returns. But Man of Steel
Wild.
is my favorite Superman movie of those. So yeah,
That's
Man of
pretty
Steel.
cool.
It's
I mean,
good. It's good.
it's not my favorite Superman film. I think the original Superman from 1978 is one of the most perfect films of all time.
If you're
That's my
counting
favorite.
animated movies, it's
Yeah, no, if
also
I'm
not
counting
mine.
animated, yeah. If I'm counting animated, it's still Superman 1978. Like,
If I'm counting
it's
animated, it's
right past
probably
them all.
Superman versus the Elite, which I don't know if enough people
Wow.
know about. You should go watch it if you haven't.
It is a good film. I watched it a few years ago and I liked it.
I don't know,
But Man
dude.
of
That's
Steel is
like
like,
it like opened my eyes to like Superman as a character so much more for some reason. Like I'm like I just understand Superman more now. Is that
yeah,
weird?
it's like I just get him. I just get him as a character. No, but
Yeah.
I love Man of Steel. I think it's
Yeah, so
oh,
something Darren said earlier, I'm sorry to like come back to this and point it out and
Go
all
for it.
that.
Fun.
He said something along the lines of like he said like this wasn't the Superman he wanted to see or like not his Superman. Like
Yeah.
I think this is fundamentally still Superman.
no, I think it is. I think at its core, it is a lot of what the character is. Like you still have
Yeah.
all of the beats there that
No.
make Superman Superman. Like he goes through the Kent, he goes through the destruction of Krypton. He goes through meeting Jor-El at his own version of the Fortress of Solitude. He goes through losing Jonathan Kent, which is an integral part of the Superman mythos. He goes
Even
through.
even the decisions he makes that like people disagree with in this movie, like they're extremely human, which like I
No,
Yeah.
feel
they
like
are.
is
Yeah,
very
yeah. They relate
Superman.
to him as a character. Like they're they're the conflict of him not knowing if he's an alien or if he's a human.
Yeah.
And I like that they come back to that pretty often with like, Clark when he finds out he's an alien, he's like, "Am I still your son?" And Jonathan's like, "Of course you are." Like
Yeah.
those are the things that Smallville also nails perfectly when it does this sort of stuff. And I feel like
Yeah.
well, yeah, from a tone sense, they feel like two completely different versions of the character. I think digging deeper into the dynamic between the Kents and Clark they're a lot similar than people give it credit for. Like, I think
Sure.
I feel like Snyder watched Smallville before making this, because I mean, maybe he didn't, but to me it feels like the flashbacks in this film, they feel pretty similar to kind of some of the sort of stuff Clark had to deal with when he was in Smallville High, and when he was dealing with learning who he really is as a person. And I think, like, while the film makes some choices that, you know, a lot of people don't like, for example, when he snaps Zod's neck, I think it's the same thing to Batman and Batman v Superman with him killing. This isn't supposed to be seen as Zack Snyder glorifying Superman killing Zod. Like, Superman lets out a scream, like a genuine, emotional, heartbreaking scream when he snaps Zod's neck to showcase, I didn't want to do this. This was the absolute last thing in the universe that I wanted to do, but I had to do it because he was going to kill a family if I didn't. Like, I think, you know, there's these things in these films where people don't like them, and I get why they don't like them, but you're not supposed to love them. You're not supposed to be like, hell yes, Superman just killed Zod. You're supposed to be like, wow, he had to do that. Like, there was no
You're
other way
supposed
around
to
that.
think of it on a deeper level. That's what Zack Snyder wants
Yeah.
from you.
Which is why I love these films, is because I mean, I love so much of the MCU, I love so much DCEU, but for me, Zack Snyder's films make me just think a little bit more about the psychology of the characters. Like, I feel like I have more
That's
of an
what I
insight
don't
into who they
understand
are.
about like the DC like course correction like whole
Yeah,
thing, because you can just watch Watchmen. You knew what you were going to get from this guy. Like
yeah, you did, yeah.
why are
You
you
don't hire that guy unless you're making those kind of films.
yeah, why are you adjusting so quickly? Like, especially given all the people that were down for that. I mean, I'm not like the biggest Snyder guy. I do, like I said earlier, enjoy many of his films. I mean, I was down to see his direction. I'm not
Yeah.
even mad about how the DCU turned out. I think it turned out fine, even though it was a mess. I think it's fine. Like
I think the quality mostly, like, went down once they course corrected.
yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of agree.
I
As
agree.
we are kind of seeing here with
I I
our
would also
top
like to
few.
add. I would also like to add, when talking about mine, like, I at least tried to get across that I think I hopefully wasn't saying that he wasn't Superman, just like he wasn't my Superman.
No,
And
I
I,
get
I
you.
think
I get you.
like I like I think this version of Superman is valid, and I think what they were going for was valid. I think Henry Cavill, I think that casting is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's a top tier casting, and I think, just for me personally, I think if they would have done some different things in my eyes, I think or like, even not even do things differently, but I think if he could have kept playing that character, I think he would be top tier Superman. Like, I really, really do think so. But, like, again, I think everything you're saying about, like, deconstructing the character and doing this different take on the character, it is valid. Like, it really, really is. It's just not my thing. And,
No,
and this
that's
is
that's fair.
and this is, like, kind of similar to, like, this is a weird jump. But, like, I'll get there. Like, the new Winnie the Pooh horror movie thing is kind of in a similar way, where it's like, sure, you can make Winnie the Pooh kill people, that's fine, but Winnie the Pooh makes me feel a
But
certain way. Like, it makes me feel joy. It
okay,
makes me
the
feel
difference there
happiness.
though, right? The difference there though is like in that movie,
Oh, it's
Winnie the
completely
Pooh is
different
just a straight
thing,
up
but
villain, right? He's
yeah,
straight up
no.
the villain. Superman is
Oh,
still
yeah.
like the
They are
Yeah.
hero.
two
He's
completely
just
different things. I'm just saying, in the way it makes me feel. Like, Superman's a character
yeah.
that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It's a character that makes me feel warmth. Like, when I'm around Henry Cavill, or not Henry Cavill, but like your Tyler Hoechlin, or like your Tom Welling, I feel good about life. And
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying because this version didn't mean it's bad. It just didn't make me feel the way I like to feel around Superman, if that makes sense.
The way I
Not to,
saw
like,
it, like
It's fair
like
enough.
with the Man of Steel version, it's like, if Superman could have, he would have put himself between Zod's
100%.
laser
Yeah,
eyes and that family, but he
yeah,
couldn't. Like, if he let go of Zod's neck, Zod would have straight away just sliced right
yeah,
through them, and he would have come. Like, I see it as like, we've never had to see Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, we've never had to see Brandon Routh's Superman, we've never had to see Tom
yeah,
Welling's Superman faced with a situation like that, where, like, they either have to kill somebody or that person kills
yeah.
a whole family of people. Like, we always see something happen where they're able to quickly save the day. there was none of that for Henry Cavill's Superman because there was no way to save the day outside of killing Zod.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's like
agree.
he's faced with problems that other Supermen have not had to face.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the season 1 stuff where like Zod is inside Superman and he's having to fight between like, and you know, he's at a point where like, kill me, like you have to take me out or I'm going to kill my whole family, like you have to do it now. And I think those are very similar. And like, I actually do like Superman having to kill Zod there. Like, I think from a storytelling like point of view, that's fascinating. It really is fascinating, even if it isn't like my favorite thing ever. It is interesting writing, for sure.
Yeah. I'm not really like a big comic reader, so like
Yeah,
I what I don't what I like about Man of Steel and find like intriguing about it is it is a deconstruction of Superman, but it's like
yeah,
it's in a different way. It's in a way like I hadn't seen before. It's not like they're
sure,
making Superman evil or anything. It's not like, oh
sure.
yeah, it's not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Injustice Superman or anything. Like he kills the
Yeah, there's a
Joker
big
and then he
jump.
becomes
Yeah,
evil. It's like he's
yeah,
still the hero. He just had to do that to save
yeah.
innocence.
It's not even like morally gray. It's like there was no other choice. It's like, do you
yeah,
want to either let a family die or do you want to kill Zod? Like you want to kill a villain?
sure.
Like, do you want to take one life or do you want this entire family to die?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which is why, yeah, when people bring up like the Batman, why the fuck does he not ever kill the Joker argument? I can't even disagree with you. Because how many lives has the Joker taken?
Yeah.
classic Joker.
I know, right?
Uh,
Oh man.
Um,
Well, Darren,
okay,
what's your number for?
my number 4. You guys had this much lower than me, but it's Blue Beetle.
Here we
oh
are.
I
damn! I only just realized Blue Beetle has not been on there for you yet. Wow.
Yeah, no, I loved Blue Beetle, man. I really did. I felt like, I don't know. I think this came out at a very interesting time for sure. I mean, we had already got 2 DC movies this year, one of which I liked, one of which I didn't. We were also in like the middle of a strike, so there really wasn't a lot of like promo for this movie. A lot of people didn't see it in theaters. I do think that's a bit of a shame. I had a great time with this movie, and I think this movie is everything I love about comic book films and and TV especially. Like, I say this, and most people hear as a disrespect to the film, but I think this is the closest thing a superhero movie has ever been to like a CW show. Like, it feels like it would air right after like a Stargirl to me. And I think the heart and soul of the movie is the family stuff. It is the family stuff and his connection to his family. And you guys were saying how this does the same thing as a lot of others do. And I do agree, but I think the way they do use the family in this movie, that they are a massive element. It's not just like, oh, they have a family and they're out there, but they go on their separate journey with these other superheroes and stuff like that. Like, I feel like they are the cornerstone of this, and his love for his family is what drives him and what is the corner of this. And I do think they are all such a lovable group of people, even though I wish sometimes maybe they could have dived into it more. Again, this is my problem with a lot of these. I think they could have. I want more time with them. I want to see it more, but I do think, again, this is just what I love about superheroes, is to see the everyday life. And and what I love, we spend like a good 20 minutes to start the film without any superhero stuff. It's just Jaime chilling with his family. It's coming home from college. It's what we don't see a lot in these superhero movies. That I think what makes the like CW shows in their prime so good is we just get to chill with them. Like, half of the pilots for these shows are just us meeting the family and them slowly integrating the powers and the suits and stuff like that. And there's a human element to Blue Beetle. It shows what they're fighting for. It shows why is he a superhero? Why does he do what he does? Well, it's to protect the ones he loves. And we actually get to see that here. And I think it's incredibly fun. I think the action feels real in this movie. It feels tangible. It doesn't, obviously this is like this, there's CGI here, but it feels like there's actually someone fighting there. There's actually someone working here. I think Sholo is a fantastic lead here. Obviously love him from Cobra Kai. And I think making him this like Iron Man type villain or this type hero here really works. I'm so excited that he's moving. I think there's a reason why he's moving over and a lot of other people aren't, because he does know that character. I think it came out at the perfect time to be able to do that. No, it doesn't all work for me. I do think there's some points of some of the jokes and stuff don't 100% land, or there is stuff that I think is a little bit basic. Like there's that scene where like they're about to kiss, and then the uncle comes in and he's like, "Oh, you were kissing." Like I've seen that 10,000 times. I don't like the giant farting beetle that shows up. Like I was like, yeah, that's a bit much for me. Like I think that tends on a little. It can come across cringe at certain times, but it all really worked for me. It also had a big like villain problem. Like I think the villain here kind of sucks, but like I also kind of don't hate that about it. Like I think sometimes I like a villain that could just be they're just shitty. Like they're just a bad person. They like there's not even any motives. They just kind of suck. And I think having that every once in a while can be okay. And yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this one. Is it the greatest thing of all times? No. Does it like break down walls? No. But I think it works here.
Yeah, no, that's pretty valid. I don't really have too much more to say on that film but like I completely get where you're coming from. Where it goes into areas that the CW shows kind of went into, and it kind of fits into that little exploring things that we don't get to see a whole lot of. Like it humanizes the characters a lot more in a way that the other DCU films they don't have time to do, which was impressive in itself. Because Blue Beetle was like an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
it was short enough. So like fair
they
play
do a
for doing
lot.
that.
I would love when he comes back if it was like a TV show instead of a movie, like an 8-episode thing, because I feel like they could do a lot more with that time. And again, it didn't make much money, so I can't see them being like, yeah, let's give him a sequel. Like I just can't see that.
Yeah.
So I'd be very down if you gave him like 13 episodes to kind of flesh out these characters a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like everything you were describing kind of just made me
Things that you don't like.
think of Shazam. Like no, all the family stuff was just making me think of Shazam because I
That's
think
fair.
it's there's a lot of parallels between Shazam and Blue Beetle. I just think it's done
Yeah.
better than Shazam.
Which is fair. Which is, I mean, why they're probably both in my top 4. So
Yeah, that's fair.
all right, Brayden, you're number what? Oh no, Connor's number 3.
Yeah,
Well,
Connor's number 3.
I got Shazam. So
Okay, here we
I
go.
love Shazam.
Speaking
I
of
love it so
Shazam.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of covered everything when you were talking about it, Brayden. But like, I don't know. I think it's a cool film that like it manages the change in tone really well. I think all the characters, I think it's a character focused film. I think that the film doesn't work as well without those characters. Like Billy is great, Freddy is great. I think it's a similar situation to Fury of the Gods, where like it feels like Shazam Billy and younger Billy are two different characters in a sense, and I get the kind of idea that it's because he feels more, I don't know, free as Shazam, I guess. But I don't know, it comes across as a little bit of a gap for me. Like, yeah, they should explain that in the film rather than leaving it for fans to kind of get onto that idea themselves. But I think it's just in general, it's a fun film, like obviously feeling like big with Tom Hanks or something like that, while still being emotional, like the mother stuff where it's needed. I think it's having it set around a particular period of the year really works as well. I think more films should do that, where they're just set during a period of the year, because it really lets them stand out. But it also just felt like a legitimately funny film. Like the humor in the film easily could have fallen into that cringe area. I never really felt like it did. I felt like for the most part the jokes landed really well, and the fact that most of the jokes were tied to other heroes in the DC universe were great as well. But yeah, no, I really liked the film. It definitely surprised me. Like I was excited for it, but I don't think I was expecting a whole lot from it when it came out, and then it came out and I was like, all right, this is actually great.
It is great. It's a great movie.
It is great. It's a great film. A film that is great.
Darren, what's your number 3?
It is my turn, isn't it? Yeah, my number 3 is, and again, my number, like, I think Blue Beetle and this could often like flip flop which one I like more. But I have Wonder Woman, the original. I think Wonder Woman is just great. I think this was such a massive moment in just cinema, because it really felt like, I'm trying to think back to some other moments, but like other films, but like it felt like for a first time for a lot of people where they were seeing a female superhero on the big screen, and out of all characters, Wonder Woman. We had never got, and I don't think we ever got, another big budget like Wonder Woman movie. Like this was such a massive thing up until this time, and for a lot of people, it felt like, well, yeah, this is DC. Like this is what like when you think of DC, this is Wonder Woman. Like for a lot of people, again, if you like the Superman stuff, you like the Batman stuff or not, I think they really nailed something really, really special with this film. I would argue again that like no man land scene is one of the most iconic scenes in the entire DCU. I would argue it's one of the greatest scenes in a comic book movie of all time. There's something just really special about this film, and the way it's so, like, yes, you could say it's kind of like your first Avenger, but like I would argue there's nothing quite like it in another comic book movie. And like I think you should do a lot more of this kind of stuff in your comic book films, where I think, where you talked about You're Like Blue Beetle, where there's a lot of things like Blue Beetle, or I feel like there's nothing quite like a Wonder Woman, where you have it set in a certain time period, you're doing things that we've never seen before, you're really setting a standard for what this character is, and I think really establishes itself as your main DCU hero. I think it's a great like introduction point. I agree with like the third act thing. I also just don't think it bothers me though. Like it's just something where it's like, yeah, the third act could use some work, but it's fine. Like it doesn't bother me in this kind of situation.
Well, my number 3 is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Tom, why are you hating? Why are you hating on that
I
film?
hate it's my number 3, Connor. What do you mean?
Why are you
What do you
hating
mean?
on that film?
What do you mean, bro? What do you mean? Look, you've already talked about both of my top 2. Why you such a
You
hater,
hate
hey?
you
Hey?
hating on that film.
Oh no, dog. Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Yeah, it's way better than the Justice League movie we got back in 2017. So much
Oh.
better. Looks way better. It is way better. It's pretty long, but other than that, I don't have a problem with this movie. I think it's really good. I think every character like gets their moments, and yeah, I don't know. I'm happy we have this Justice League movie. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm happy
We,
we
we
have this after.
there's a universe where we didn't get it, and it's worse. And it's a worse
Yeah,
universe.
definitely.
Let
So,
me just go right into my second then, because it's my second.
yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I love it. I genuinely, it's one of my favorite films of all time. Like, I think that the film nails everything, and there is not a single thing about the original cut that isn't improved by the Zack Snyder version or isn't better in the Zack Snyder version. Like, I think every single character is so much better. I think, yeah, it's long, but I think the fact that they split it into the 7 parts of like the 6 parts and then the epilogue part was a really good way of being like, hey, you don't want to watch all of this in one sitting? Here's a couple parts for you. You can split it up into this, and this. Like you can watch like part 1 and 2 tonight, part 2 and 3 tomorrow, or part 3 and 4 tomorrow. Also, I think they handled the return of Superman so well, where he like shows up and just Steppenwolf's axe goes right into him and doesn't even make a dent, and he's just like not impressed. It's one of the few moments that they managed to make Superman be legitimately cool and awesome in film, I think. Like without the cheesiness or anything, like he's just a cool, imposing character.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I feel about a lot of the Zack Snyder stuff in general in this universe, is that they do a really good job at making things feel cool. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of problems with this movie. I think my only main problem is that the epilogue stuff feels more so like setting up a future we'll never see. Like, it feels like every second scene in the epilogue is jumping to something we're not going to see, and I think maybe it would have been better to take those out and have them as deleted scenes for people who want to see them, and maybe wrap up the film in a more of a this is the end sort of way. Like, I get it. Probably the intent with making this film was to hope that if it does incredibly well, it'll push for them to get another Justice League film in this universe. But I think at the end of the day, they should have kind of known that they weren't going any further than this. So maybe remove that Legion of Doom scene, maybe remove that Nightmare Future scene with Jared Leto's Joker and Mera and stuff like that. Maybe even remove the Martian Manhunter scene. Like, yeah, they're cool, but do they really help serve this movie as a movie? I don't think so. I think they work more just to set up something we'll never see. But I love the film. I think it's great.
I agree. And although they're beautiful, I think my main problem with the movie is like there are so many like slow-mo or like
There's a lot, yeah.
just capture shots of Zack Snyder, and they look so great because it's Zack Snyder. But you don't need like 20 of them in one movie.
Yeah. Which that's just like his thing, is like, hey, I'm gonna speed ramp this, I'm gonna speed ramp that, which is like cool, but chill out a little bit.
Yeah, chill out a little bit, man. Well, Darren, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Shazam, the first Shazam movie. this is such a me film, I think. I love Shazam. I've always loved the character. I think the concept of his character is always so enticing to me. It's a very like Ben 10 type thing where it's like this I mean, I think it's just like kid superheroes in general. I like the like teenage superhero, like going to school by day and being a superhero by night type of thing is always very interesting to me. And I think Shazam is such an interesting character because what kid doesn't want to be a superhero? What child doesn't want to escape his problems by being your Superman or your Batman or your Wonder Woman? I think this movie, goes through the eyes of someone, and I guess not directly him, but like his friend, right? He's like, they loved like these. This is from the perspective of like a fan of someone just who lives in the world of a superhero and someone who just happens to get powers and is now in the same convo as your Superman and your, you know, like your Wonder Woman. I think this movie was something just very simple. Like it is a very kind of simple movie, and I think it takes a lot of right. Like I think if there wasn't the aspect of him turning into a kid, like a kid turning into a superhero, I think it does kind of get in the same convo of like you're like Shazam 2 or like your Aquaman, where it's kind of your basic, just like everyday superhero movie. But I think it takes a basic idea, a basic plot, and turns it into something really heartfelt and very special. I think the whole sequence, you mentioned it, like him finally meeting his mom and realizing she doesn't want him and that there's all this thing, and then him realizing his family's in trouble and realizing his real family's in trouble, his newfound family's in trouble, and him jumping off the roof and shouting it is probably my favorite scene in the entire DCEU. Like it's brilliant. And again, all the kids are super fun. I don't think anyone expected them to do the whole family in movie one. Like I don't think anyone thought they were going to do that. The way they just pulled it at the end of the film and it made sense and it flowed. I loved it. I genuinely love this movie, and I think these top two are just my favorite DC films in general. So love this movie.
It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is a really good film.
My number 2 is Wonder Woman. I love this movie. It's so
Wow.
good. I'm glad this
WW.
was. I don't know why it took so long to get a freaking Wonder Woman movie, but I'm glad that Wonder Woman had the first like female-led superhero movie. I guess, even though I guess you can say Catwoman had that, even though we don't have to talk about that movie, or Elektra. We don't have to talk about that movie either.
Yeah, it's
Why
crazy.
not? Let's make this the Elektra Catwoman podcast. Let's go.
Yeah, they were before Wonder Woman. Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that
Wonder
enough?
Woman did Linda Carter have a TV movie for Wonder Woman, or no?
No, I don't think so. Not Linda Carter.
That's
They did the
insane, bro.
they did the like technically the Adrian Palicki Pedro Pascal one from 2011 is a movie because it's one episode, so they call it a TV movie. But I mean, I don't think counts.
Yeah, well, we've already talked about Wonder Woman though. The mascara scene at the beginning, that action scene is kick ass. Like I think the first and second act of this movie are like so good, pretty much perfect. Third act not as good, but it doesn't really bring the movie down that much for me. I don't really care. The first two acts of that maybe arguably better than anything else in this universe, but there's one movie I think is a little more consistent than it. So that's why it's number 2 for me. But Wonder Woman, Gal as Wonder Woman, she's great. As Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, terrific.
The
Just
greatest.
like all the
Greatest of all
characters in
time.
this
Greatest
movie are
Chris of
really
all
good for me.
Chris's. Yeah, no, I really like the characters in that film.
Yeah, and the No Man's Land sequence, of course. Just the music in the film overall, the score,
Yeah,
Yeah.
very,
so
very good, very
I think
strong.
same guy did the score for that. Did the score for Aquaman, or either the same guy or they're brothers, because they have the same. It's like Rupert Gregerson Williams, and then another Gregerson Williams, and they're brothers. But I don't know
Oh,
if they did these films. Let me double check that. I want to be wrong.
I'm glad they
On
brought
live
back
on-
the BVS Wonder Woman theme for that scene
Yeah.
because that theme's so good.
Okay, Rupert did Aquaman, and oh yeah, he did Wonder Woman as well. Yeah, okay. Same dude.
Well, we're on to our number 1 though. Connor.
My number 1 is Batman v Superman. I'm not gonna spend too long on it because it's also almost midnight here. But I know I love Batman v Superman. I mean, like I've got problems with it. Like I don't think it's the perfectest film ever. Like I think Doomsday should have been kept out of it. I think Death of Superman shouldn't have happened in it. I think the Justice League reveal stuff is stupid. I used to hate Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, but I've come around it a little bit, like of the context that it isn't supposed to be the Lex Luthor. It's supposed to be his son. But at the same time, it's like why are we seeing his son and not the Lex Luthor then at that point? Like, just
Yeah,
do the
right.
normal Lex Luthor. But I think he comes across as like what he's supposed to be, which is like a creepy Mark Zuckerberg-esque
Yeah.
version of the character, which is funny because he played Mark Zuckerberg in Social Network. But like it works as that kind of version of a character where it's a very modern take on like somebody who was born into money and all of his life has had everything given to him, and now he's seeing a guy like Superman come out of nowhere and take all the limelight from him, and he's like, it's making him go a little bit insane. But also, I hate the Jimmy Olsen thing. What is even weird about the Jimmy Olsen thing is that Man of Steel had a character in the Daily Planet at the end of the movie called Jenna Olsen, so everybody thought that was just the Jimmy Olsen for the DCEU, but then they actually brought in Jimmy Olsen for so that's weird. But no, I think it's great. I think it's a really good film that kind of it puts Superman on this pedestal where the world is like, can we trust someone like this? It asks a lot of questions that DC Comics and Superman in general don't really ask outside of the comics. Like we haven't really seen something go this deep into the is Superman somebody we should trust with this sort of power? Like, should we be scared of someone like this? Should we be treating him like a god? Is he a god? It's a lot of really interesting elements that they bring forward, and it's honestly, I think, like, well, yeah, I don't love some of the Doomsday stuff or some of the third act stuff. This might be my favorite screenplay in the DCEU. Like, honestly, out of DC in general, I think this might be my favorite script of all time because I think like the dialogue in it is phenomenal. I think for most of the film, every line coming out of someone's mouth sounds Shakespearean. Like it sounds like there was so much thought put into every single word these characters are saying. And while yeah, they might not exactly be saying things that the characterizations like people want to see, I think writing wise, it comes across very epic in a way that DC doesn't usually do. But yeah, I love it.
Okay,
Love that for you.
not really a surprise to us. We kind of knew that was coming, but we respect it. Aaron,
Alrighty.
do we have the same number one?
I think we do, and that's a Mr. Suicide Squad.
It is the
Damn.
Suicide
The,
Squad.
the Suicide Squad.
And
Yeah.
earlier I said we'd get kind of more into why I'm excited for Legacy, and it's because the Suicide Squad is
Yeah.
my favorite movie
Yeah,
of
same.
all
I
these.
think no, I 100% think, and I think DC kind of had that same vision, or like Warner Brothers, I guess, kind of had the same vision where it's like you gave him this, and I think he knocked it out of the park, and you gave him Peacemaker and knocked that out of the park. I personally just think this movie's kind of magic in my eyes. Something happened while I was in the theater. I was so encapsulated by the story that they were telling. I think they kind of, because I don't think I fully understood how cool the Suicide Squad could be until this movie. Until I saw kind of like the
Yes. That's kind of my
deep.
thing with this movie. There's like a story behind this movie for me. Like, I don't know. I was around the time this movie was coming out, I was like not in a good place. I was in a pretty dark place. Something about this movie was so good though, and like it had like the tone of it was serious, but it had this uplifting vibe to it. So
Yeah, I
I
did.
rewatched it so many times because I
And
hated
James
my
Gunn
job
does
at
that
that time.
so well. Yeah, I think James Gunn does that so well, where he takes these very heavy stories and these very heavy characters, and somehow, if you're going with the Peacemaker stuff, if you're going with the Guardian stuff, if you're going with the Suicide Squad, these are all very deep and sometimes very dark moments and characters, and you somehow leave all of them feeling hope, feeling this joy, and I think that's something that is going to be really benefited from him being part of like the DCU. Is I think that's what DC is. It's about hope. It's about wishing for a better tomorrow, and I think
Especially what Superman is.
yes, and I'm very excited to see his take on Superman because I think I'm going to be giggling out of the theater with just happiness about like how I talked about this throughout this whole thing. I've loved like Superman makes me feel hope. That's what that's why I love Superman, and I think he's going to give that to us full force. Like I really do think so.
The
But no,
Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Guardians 3,
Yeah.
all give me like very, very like a lot of faith in Gunn.
yeah, they're
And
really
I
solid
hope
movies.
that faith is rewarded.
Same, and I also just think the way James writes his characters are always so impressive to me. Like we spend
Yeah, they're
almost
all extremely human.
Oh, 100%. And we don't even spend that much time with a lot of them, but what he does in such a short amount of time is so impressive to me. And by the end, like that moment where they're going back into the city to fight to fight not Sparrow. Starro, sorry. And like Walla's like, don't you dare, I will press the, like that whole sequence, and you're like, please don't press it, please don't press it. Because again, I could have seen a world where he let her press it. Like I could see, like I feel like that'd be something that he would do, but like you're so paranoid for these guys and you care about all of these characters so much. How you make me care about a character called Ratcatcher and Polka Dot Man, and how he made these characters work in live action is something so special. And I think just Starro as a villain is so interesting because he isn't the villain, not really. The like government is the villain, but how they made such a obscure Justice League villain into something really emotionally investing in this movie was, in my opinion, magic. Like I think this is my favorite DC film of all time. It's probably in my top films of all time as well. I just love this movie, genuinely.
It's definitely one of my favorite DC movies of all time too. It's probably my favorite non-Batman DC movie, so
Yeah.
it has that going for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think James Gunn just has like a way of like setting things up for the future too, because like I didn't give a fuck about Peacemaker before I saw this movie, and after I saw it, I was like, man, I can't wait for the Peacemaker show.
I knew of him from the OG Vigilante comics because I read after Arrow season 5 had Vigilante in it. I read the Vigilante comics with Adrian Chase and stuff like that in them, and Peacemaker is like a character in that. And I was like, I knew of him because of that, but I was like, oh, either gonna kind of build the Suicide Squad movie and a TV show around this guy, and then he was great in it.
Yeah, Vigilante was great in Peacemaker. Yeah, Peacemaker's great. Not on our list, but part of the DCEU. Can't wait for season 2.
Yeah, if I was ranking it, it would be my number 1.
It'd be like number 58 for me.
Damn.
Yeah,
How dare you?
I'd take movies from other franchises and put them in underneath.
I'd probably put it under Wonder Woman, but I don't know because it's not a complete story, so it's kind of hard to rank.
Yeah, sure. That is true.
But yeah, that was our DCEU rankings.
That's our 16.
All 16 of them, baby. This was a 3-hour extravaganza.
Well, unless you count the Flash Extended Universe and bring in like all the freaking
CW shows
and the CW shows and the George Reeves.
Ezra Miller was on the CW. So
it was, Arrow season.
We got to start ranking
8, episode 8.
Let's not do this. The Super Bowl.
We have to rank all 49, 48 CW shows.
The Super Bowl is on
all
right now.
180.
The Super Bowl has started. It's commenced. So
Deadpool 3 trailer is out currently.
Yeah, so we gotta go watch that, guys. But what is there anything you want to plug?
My channel, Eggs over here. Subscribe.
Yep. And me and Connor are over on the Pipeline every Thursday. If you want to go check us out and nerd about all kinds of DC and Marvel and stupid shit like that, go find us over on my channel.
Yeah, you can find that on his channel. You can find it. It's on like anywhere you can find podcasts, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Yep.
Right,
Spotify,
that's where you
Apple, all that fun stuff.
That's where you can find this show. Also, Giggly Gorillas. That's where you can find my other show. That's So Random. You can find it at the Red Arrow. If that's not where you're watching it on YouTube, you can find some other random videos about mostly DC. That's mostly what I talk about there. Sometimes some WWE stuff. Sometimes some NFL stuff. Whatever, you know. It's my channel, so I do whatever the fuck I want.
He does what he wants. Heard it here, folks.
And just one last thing is you can subscribe to me over on Arcanize.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can find him on Arcanize. You can find him on Exit over here on YouTube. Go subscribe to both those channels. Go subscribe to Daren McClemens. Go check out the Pipeline podcast. Yeah,
Thank you. This is fun. Thank you for having us.
It was fun. It was a great time.
Hopefully we can do something else in the
future.
future.
Hate Justice League.
Yes.
You guys hate Justice League.
It's fine, Connor. It's fine.
You hate it. Yes,
that's it.
That was long. How long was that?